even lost a Catholic priest to these kind of criminals, Mr. Speaker. And we must also see to it or persuade the CS for Interior that we must also disarm criminals, that firearms especially should not be in the wrong hands, Mr. Speaker. And I believe that the CS for Interior can do better than threatening Rigathi Gachagua with arrest while Kenyans continue being killed with Abaddon in our counties, Mr. Speaker. And so we must ask the CS for Interior to be serious and to do things that matter and not to actually get bothered with politics and who says what, but actually get to the ground and have the criminals arrested, disarmed, and necessary action taken, Mr. Speaker, because this is very serious. So, Mr. Speaker, every Kenyan has a right to live anywhere in this country and to engage in any form of economic activity as long as it is not illegal. And so, Mr. Speaker, we must also protect our pastoralists, Mr. Speaker, and those that do other forms of farming in order for them to be safe in their country. And Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, I also want to comment on the statement by Senator Mofaya on the welfare of the boy child, Mr. Speaker, who has been neglected for ages, especially since 1985, when we had that, I do not want to call it infamous, Beijing conference in 1985, where we have been empowering the girl child at the expense of the boy child, Mr. Speaker. So that you even see some laws that discriminate against boys, Mr. Speaker, where, for example, an 18-year-old boy, if he's found to have engaged in a sexual affair with a girl who is 17 years old, he is considered to have done what we can call child abuse or defilement, and they are jailed. Well, these are actually age mates, Mr. Speaker. So we must speak out for the boy child who has been neglected and socialized also, not to speak about his problems.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Honorable Speaker, as I rise to support the statement, two statements, one by the Senator of Enoch Wambua and Senator Mwenda Gataya. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by congratulating the great people of Homa Bay County. Honorable Speaker, just Sunday, the first Madaraka Day was celebrated in my county, Homa Bay County, and I want to thank our people for the show and demonstration of patriotism, Honorable Speaker. Our people came in large number, Honorable Speaker. A number of them came on foot, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, our people have been so happy. A number of people were very cagey about the numbers that were in Homa Bay. But that was a real demonstration of the resolve of our people, especially from the Lake region. That these are a people who, when they mean yes, they say yes. And when they say no, they mean no. And at the demonstration in Madaraka Day, everybody, it was very clear that our people were happy. We are a community who show it in our face. And Honorable Speaker, we said yes because we meant yes. Honorable Speaker, I now come to support the statement by Senator Enoch Wambua about the resurgence of banditry in Kitui County. Honorable Speaker, banditry has led to a lot of suffering in regions. Honorable Speaker, we have seen that lives have been lost where there's banditry. We have seen destruction of property, and we have seen generally an interruption of livelihood of people. Honorable Speaker, I must join in mourning the loss of the priest that was murdered just the other week, which was also banditry in itself. So, Honorable Speaker, I condemn and I support this statement. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to support that boys and men must be protected in terms of their dignity, the boys and men in this republic. Honorable Speaker, we support that both boys and girls must live in dignity. And so I support these two statements And I want to say thank you to the great people of Homa Bay County as I wind up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the statement by Senator Wambua on the resurgence of banditry in Kitui. This is not an isolated incident. There have been an increase in banditry activities, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the more famous ones are what's happening in the Kerio Valley and the battle that's ongoing there. Now, we hear these reports of what happened in Kitui. Last weekend on the border between Kenya and Tanzania, in the Angata Baragoi area, where there were difficulties a few weeks ago, a lone gunman actually attacked citizens that were just taking care of their cattle and made away with herds of cattle. This, Mr. Speaker, points to a greater problem than just the command of the police service. For many years, Mr. Speaker, and you know, this is not rocket science. There is technology, Mr. Speaker, that is available to take care of vast areas, such as the area that Senator Wambua is talking about, the Kerio Valley, Angata Baragoi, Mr. Speaker. Yet, as a country, we have continued to underfund our security apparatus. Mr. Speaker, time has come, and I hope that when the Security Committee takes time to listen to the representation from the Inspector General of Police and the Ministry of Interior, we will have a conversation about the need to properly fund our security agencies, Mr. Speaker. We continue to banish them. We say, Mr. Speaker, you need to do this or the other, but you are only as good as the technology that is available to you. This is the only country in the world, Mr. Speaker, where we politicize the budget of our security forces. We have seen many times, Mr. Speaker, newspapers trying to discuss and dissuade the country from investing and modernizing our security systems. And we ignorantly do so, Mr. Speaker, because unlike the rest of our neighbors and parts of this world that have dealt with insurgents such as this, Mr. Speaker, we have never dealt with serious conflict as a country. And perhaps we think that it is not important to fund our security systems and modernize the equipment they have, Mr. Speaker. I hope that when this committee retires to consider this statement, it will be a wake-up call to us on the need to better equip our security agencies so as to combat this kind of menaces across the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Essie Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to support the statement by Senator Wambua by saying that the current issue he is actually highlighting is not appearing for the first time. And I think the ministry now needs to take stern actions to ensure they stop whatever that is happening within that area. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to support the statement by Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya on neglect of the boy child. I think if I actually use former President Barack Obama's words on not being successful when you play half a team, Mr. Speaker, this statement calls on us to refocus on looking at the kind of families we are bringing up because, Mr. Speaker, the future of this country is at stake. I personally come from a conservative community where for a very long time we have celebrated the boy child for purposes of having continuity of our generation, Mr. Speaker. But whatever we are actually seeing directly has a relationship to do with the femicide cases we are seeing in this country, Mr. Speaker. So I wish that we put our heads together and look at the issue of boy-child together, even as we emphasize on the conversation of girls, because the fight against GBV is not in isolation for women. The men are part of us. And for a long time, I've come to actually appreciate that being a man is actually more than having muscles, more than having a deep voice. They're actually seed carriers, Mr. Speaker. So if what is happening continues happening, we risk the future of this generation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, consideration of the report of the Standing Committee on Health on a petition to the Senate by Ms. Mercy Jepchichir regarding alleged medical negligence and staff incompetence which led to the death of Ms. Anita Jepkorir at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital.
Now, debate on this motion had concluded. What remained was for the chair to put the question, which I'll proceed to do. Clerk, do you have the requisite quorum? All right. I'll therefore proceed to put the question that the Senate adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Health on a petition to the Senate by Ms. Mercy Jepchirchir regarding alleged medical negligence and staff incompetence, which led to the death of Ms. Anita Jepkorir at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, the 7th of May, 2025. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the fourth basis for allocating the share of national revenue among counties.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. You may proceed to move. What is your point of order all about? You know, there is no, you are out of order, Senator Osotsi. You can only rise on a point of order to point out a disorderly conduct of a senator who is on their feet. So, if it certainly cannot be a point of order. You may proceed. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I have a very important matter to raise. Standing Order number 38 allows us to temporarily suspend a sitting. And the practice has been when we have a matter of serious important like the one we are about to discuss, so that we can give us some times to discuss and get a consensus. I have noted that the motion before us, as written, I'm sure we have consulted, including the meeting we had this morning. But some of the issues that we raised seem not have been included in this motion today. So I was seeking that you probably allow us, understanding Order number 38, some time to consult further on this matter before we continue with it, given its importance, not just to us, but to the whole country, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg that you allow us to consult further, and then we can continue.
Order, honorable senators, order. Yes, Senator Kitui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to what our colleague Senator Ososia said. Senator Eddy, you may want to listen to this. So, Speaker, I've listened to what Ososia said, and maybe it makes sense. But, Mr. Speaker, there is one thing as leaders we must also get serious about. We agreed through a communication from your chair that we're going to have a Kamukunji this morning, where we were supposed to sit and canvass those issues. As Speaker, just a handful of us attended that Kamukunji. So I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, what this magic will be that you're going to employ that will get all of us to sit, consult, and agree. Mr. Speaker, yes, this is an important matter, but it is as important as the attention that we give to it. If we wanted to deal with this matter, honestly, all of us should have been here at 7 to address this issue. There is business that is pending in the order paper for so long, Mr. Speaker. If we keep adjourning debate to deal with issues that people are not very, very keen on dealing with, then I don't know what you're going to do. Mr. Speaker, my point is, that opportunity was given to us. We did not take that opportunity. Twice, actually. How many more times do we need that opportunity to come and address those issues? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Majority Leader.
Can I probably provide a way out? And for the comfort of Senator Osotsi, Kinyua, and the rest of the members that I know, there's a position they are trying to canvass. First of all, I associate myself with the comments of Senator Wambua. It would have been important that you be here today in the morning as a sign of commitment to your constituents, because we had a lengthy discussion. However, Mr. Speaker, that is neither here nor there. What we resolved in that meeting is that the senators that have a contrary position to what the committee is proposing, to convince the rest of us by way of permutations done by the Parliamentary Budget Office, so that as you make your submissions to the motion, you inform the House why you disagree with the formula and why the formula you are now proposing serves us better. And then, if you have a good formula that is better than what the committee is proposing, that secures the interest of your particular region or the counties that you're proposing, Mr. Speaker, we will listen to them. However, we felt that it will be unfair to the committee to continue discussing this matter without the matter finding its way substantively before the floor of this House. The practice has always been, and this is a practice adopted in the second generation, in the third, and now that we are doing the fourth, that once the motion is moved, you prepare your notes, Senator Osotsi, together with permutations calculated for you by the Parliamentary Budget Office, come and circulate. Then you can convince us. And I believe that's what Senator Omogeni is doing. That's why he's not here, because he was part of the Kamkunji. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to request that we make progress. We allow the chairperson to move, the motion be seconded, then deliberations can begin. We are not about to vote this afternoon, Senator Osotsi. You still have time, maybe between today, tomorrow, Thursday, who knows, to convince the rest of the House. So I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lastly, Senator for Nairobi City.
You know, Speaker, I don't understand the anxiety from some of our colleagues. I don't know what we have said or done to make them believe that we cannot be persuaded. I am personally here to be persuaded by the arguments that are advanced on this floor. And Speaker, if you remember the first time that this matter was supposed to be on the order paper, you gave a communication to say that you wanted opportunity for this House to talk within itself so that we avoid the acrimony of the last formula. And we all agreed. And the Finance Committee, to their credit, they have organized forums for us to be able to have this conversation twice, including this morning, and I didn't see my deputy party leader in that meeting. So if and the way forward that has been given by the majority leader, I think is going to solve the problem for us. Let us hear from the committee. Let us hear from everybody, Honorable Speaker. Let us try to persuade each other. But what I don't like, personally, Honorable Speaker, is people playing cards under the table. And the good thing is that Senator Osotsi knows me. That immediately I feel like you're trying to be clever with me, Honorable Speaker, I become a bit upset. So I feel like there's people who have an agenda that they don't want to disclose. Let them persuade us here. We are amenable to be persuaded, and Osotsi knows that, Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
You know, Honorable Senators, let us make progress on this matter. Indeed, Senator Osotsi, you had the opportunity to speak. Allow the chair to give the way forward. If you remember, Honorable Senators, when this matter came first, I listened to the concerns of Honorable Senators then, and we agreed that it was important for us to engage and engage more substantively before this particular motion was moved. Now, it is over 1 month since I made that communication. That means we had ample time to engage, consult, and try to see if we can have a give and take so that once this matter is tabled, we do not have the acrimonious environment like it was witnessed sometimes back. Now, that opportunity was made available to you. No senator here can say they were rushed, they were not given an opportunity to consult, to engage, to persuade. That opportunity was indeed made available to all of us. Now, honorable senators, even if we are to allow for more consultation for maybe 6 months, we will still have some dissenting voices. I don't think we'll be able to strike a 100% agreement in this formula. And therefore, what remains is, as what the Senator for Nairobi seat has just said, persuade your colleagues on the floor of this House. In any event, honorable senators, I did not want to rule the Senator for Vihiga out of order, but to some extent, what he brought forward is in breach of our standing orders. It is anticipating over debate, because the motion is yet to be moved, and here we are actually debating the motion before it was moved. So let's allow the motion to be moved. All these good arguments that I've just listened to, let them be put forward as you debate this motion. Try to persuade your colleagues on the position that maybe you individually hold, and depending on your power of persuasion, we may swing one way or the other. So at this juncture, allow the chairman to move the motion, and then we engage in debate. Proceed, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for that guidance. Pursuant to Standing Order 62 of the Senate Standing Orders, I beg to move that the motion in an amended form, that the Senate notes the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the fourth basis for allocation of share of national revenue among the counties, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 17th April 2025, and that pursuant to Article 2171 of the Constitution, approves the fourth basis of allocation of share of nationally raised revenue among the counties for the financial year 2025-2026 to 2029-2030 as follows. County allocation baseline ratio of 387.25, which is translated into a factor, plus 2 billion shared equally among identified 11 counties that are receiving less money, plus 45% of whatever that will be above 387.425 to be shared using population, 35% to be shared as equal share index, 12% to be shared using poverty index, and 8% to be shared using geographical size index. Then that additional to the baseline will come to 389.425, where the baseline ratio is the allocation factor derived from each county's allocation for the financial year 2024-2025. The 11 counties identified are Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Isiolo, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, Lamu, Nyamira, Samburu, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, and Vihiga. The population index is based on 2019 Kenya Population and Housing Census data. The poverty index is based on 2022 Kenya Poverty Report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, and the geographical size is capped at 10%. Mr. Speaker, Article 2171 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that once every 5 years, the Senate shall, by resolution, determine the basis of allocating among counties the share of nationally raised revenue annually allocated to the county level of government. Further, Article 2161 of the Constitution provides that the principal function of the Commission on Revenue Allocation is to make recommendations concerning the basis of equitable share of revenue raised by the national government between the national and county government and among the county governments using CARA. Mr. Speaker, CRA has forwarded their recommendation to the committee. And this committee, Mr. Speaker, has engaged a lot of stakeholders after we have received the recommendations of CRA, including the National Treasury, Commission on Revenue Allocation, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Council of Governors, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, Budgeti Hub, the County Assembly of Bomet Budget Office on behalf of Mr. Bernard Rono, Estella Chimutai, and Nixon Kirui, the Budget Talk Global, the Institute of Public Finance, Achievers of Kenya, Coastal People Forum, and Mr. John Kangani. Mr. Speaker, during the deliberations, the committee made various observations that the fourth basis recommended by CRA incorporated a new parameter called the stabilization factor. According to the CRA, this factor was introduced to ensure that no county loses any money from what they are getting in the current year, 2024-2025. However, it will be prudent to address transitional effect from one basis to another using scientifically generated deviation parameter. Mr. Speaker, sir, that the data used to generate the income distance index, GCP, is not directly derived from each county, but rather the Kenyan National Bureau applies a top-down approach to determine each county's contribution to GDP. Further, the approach used by CRA to determine the index is similar to the level of poverty gap in a particular county when compared to Nairobi City County. Additionally, using Nairobi City County as a reference point makes it difficult to assign an index to this reference that is specific to the county. Mr. Speaker, we have engaged these stakeholders and we have picked their input at various levels. The underlying issue that the committee was faced with, Mr. Speaker, is that when we converged on consultation about this in the presence of CRA in Naivasha, the committee was guided by the whole Senate, that the people who attended that meeting in Naivasha. The guidance from the Senate was that principle number one, no county should lose money from what they are currently getting. That is principle number one. Principle number two, whatever that is over and above 387.425, that each county must gain marginally or equitably from any figure above 387.425. Mr. Speaker, in order for the committee to arrive at a position that is in conformity with the principle that was agreed upon by the Senate, we had to get the third basis of revenue sharing and convert that into a factor of allocation in order to safeguard what each county is currently getting. Meaning, we held 387.425 to a factor for each county based on the third basis of revenue allocation. And next, we had to come up with parameters on how to share what is over and above 387.425. At this juncture, Mr. Speaker, it's worthwhile to note that the National Assembly has already approved division of revenue, and they have approved that at 405 billion. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's also worthwhile to note that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya has also approved DORA at 465 billion. Mr. Speaker, it's very important maybe for the nation to know that for us as the Senate to arrive at a figure of 465.425, we are informed by non-discretionary expenditures that has come as an addition to what the counties have been receiving, arising from legislations that are passed by Parliament at the national level. Mr. Speaker, these non-discretionary expenditures include housing levy deductions amounting to 4.1 billion, enhanced contributions to NSSF amounting to 6 billion, matching allocation to CAIPs, County Aggregated Industrial Parks, amounting to 11.8 billion, matching allocation for community health promoters amounting to 3.23 billion, annual wage increment, that is wage thrift, amounting to 6.3 billion, basic salary increment as per the Dr. CBA number 217/21 execution of return to formula that amounts to 3.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, that coupled with the fact that the shareable revenue of the government of Kenya has been increasing gradually. The last meaningful increase for county government has happened in the financial year 2020-2021, when the last third basis of revenue sharing was happening. Mr. Speaker, that time the shareable revenue increased from 316 to 370 billion. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, is worthwhile to note that the shareable revenue has only marginally increased from 370. The following year, it remained at 370. Those are the COVID year. And thereafter, it moved from 370 to 385. And now it has moved from 385 to 387.425. The cumulative increase over the 5 years for county governments from shareable revenue amounts to a total of about 70 billion shilling. When you compare that to shareable revenue increase of national government, which over those 5 years is 770 billion shilling, which translates to about 10%. That is the wisdom that informed the Senate to pass DORA at 465 billion, so that these senators do not fight over the formula and what counties get, but we fight to get more shareable revenue in order to make sure that most concerns that the senators have can be addressed. Mr. Speaker, it is also in the consultation shared by my colleagues, Senator Sifuna and Senator Wambua, and the majority leader, we've had 2 consultation periods as guided by yourself. The committee plus the secretariat have availed themselves. The essence of those meetings was for us to consult and to arrive at and address if there's any thorny issue that may come up, in order to maybe cushion, based on the experience of the third basis of revenue sharing, to cushion the country from the drama of the Senate, in order to make sure that we carry each other along the entire 47 counties. This morning, Mr. Speaker, in consultation with the people who attended, that about 13, we arrived at a position where the smaller counties that I've mentioned of Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Isiolo, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, Lamu, Nyamira, Samburu, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, and Vihiga, that there is some challenge for these counties to remain viable if they do not get a little bit of cushion effect. The proposal that came in, which now is the property of the House, Mr. Speaker, is that we set aside within the formula 2 billion shilling to be shared equally among these 11 counties in order to carry everybody along. Mr. Speaker, the committee of the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, have carried this responsibility on behalf of the entire Senate. The committee members, despite representing their respective counties, I, as the chair, could not allow them to speak on behalf of their counties and a situation that is favorable to their counties, because we have to carry the 47 county governments in the proposals that we make. And similarly, this Senate should not be, clouded in the situation where everybody will try and push a situation that specifically favors their specific county. Rather, we really need to look at how do we carry these 47 counties, whose responsibility as the Senate of the Republic of Kenya we bear as the Senate, and we've sworn to uphold. And that does not mean that simply means we are collectively responsible for the 47 counties and individually responsible for the oversight and other mandates. As we engage, Mr. Speaker, and as I move this motion, it's important to inform my colleagues that the moment, if I take a perfect case example, for purposes of just carrying each other along, this morning when we had the engagement, and I listened to about 8 members of the Senate who spoke, each member has tried to speak in favor of a situation that he or she believes favors his county, by way of saying the variables that we have considered, can you change this from this number to this, and this number to this, and this number to this, oblivious of the reality of the fact that as the committee, once we've tabled this report, we have no further mandate to be able, even in consultation, to amend the numbers in favor of a given county. Rather, it is our prerogative as a committee on behalf of the Senate to carry everybody along and get a formula that is not perfect. We can never get a formula that's perfect. If that was the case, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would have fought for 14% on poverty and 9% on geographical size, because Mandera would have fallen in that bracket when that favor will be considered. But to carry everybody along and to make sure that we are not, short-sighted from the perspective of just only looking at what is going to be beneficial to my county or this other county. The honorable senators who are members of this committee, I have guided and they have listened, and it have prevailed upon them to make sure that they understand this is a very controversial issue. It's very important that from even the proposal, before this becomes the property of the House, for the House to either accept it, amend it, or decide to do what they do with it. From the face value of our presentation, we should position and present ourselves as extremely fair and in conformity with the guidance that we were given in Naivasha by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, I would like to report that both the principles that we were given as a guide in Naivasha of no county should lose anything from what they're getting now. And remember, the controversy of the third basis of revenue sharing was largely because there were so many counties losing substantive amount of money. And counties, just like people who are salaried, once you are given certain amount of money, you learn to plan with that certain amount. And a reduction will be extremely unfair because it's going to put counties in spin. So it's the onus is upon the Senate to make sure that that guidance we've taken is upheld by way of making sure no county loses anything from what they were getting, and that the formula has taken care of. And whatever that is over and above 387.425, and now, from the amended perspective, 389.425, with a cushioning of about 11 smaller counties. We believe that goes further to address, and every county will marginally or equitably benefit, while we also take care of these smaller counties. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request Senator Kalwale to second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, you may proceed to second.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second this motion as moved by the chair of the Finance and Budget Committee, the Senator of Mandera, who fortunately for us in this Senate is actually a national party leader. And therefore, like many national party leaders, has a global view, not just on the politics of the country, but also on the need to carry all the people of Kenya along on a very sensitive issue like sharing the Commonwealth of the Republic of Kenya. I therefore want to congratulate him for moving the motion, and Mr. Speaker, together with my colleagues in the committee, I would like to plead with this Senate that it was without prejudice that we arrived at the current formula. And I would be very grateful if you joined us in allowing this formula to share revenue in the Republic for the next 5 years or so. But in so saying, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't mean, colleagues, that we are emotionally attached to this formula. No, not in any way. In fact, if I was to be emotionally attached to this formula, I would be attached to the formula that allows Kakamega to capitalize on its population size. That way, quickly we get more money than most of the counties because Nairobi, Kakamega, Kiambu, and Nakuru are the largest counties population-wise. Mr. Speaker, I was happy at attempt 1, Kamukunji 1, Kamukunji 2 this morning, to hear members speak emotively. That is the way it should be. We were not brought here to fight for any position that does not favor the counties that voted us into this Senate. So when you see, for example, the Senator of Nyamira, who happens to be my Mokoyone, speak with the passion he did, it is because, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that is loud consultation.
Senator for Kakamega, you've chosen English. Stick to English, please. The other alternative is Kiswahili, and I don't think the word you've just uttered is either Kiswahili or English.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with you fully. But somewhere I read and somewhere I heard that the Speaker does not see, the Speaker does not hear, he's only moved by plenary. Mr. Speaker, I submit your guidance. Mr. Speaker, with a light touch.
Senator for Kakamega, don't invite the chair in that direction. Proceed to conclude.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, all I was saying is that I wanted to speak to his heart. Mukoyone in Kisi language, in the Goose language, means my brother-in-law, which is a fact. So I wanted to appeal to him so that he comes closer to the position of the committee. I didn't want to insult the House in any way. And I know my wife, where she is now, hearing these things. Today, dinner is going to be very nice. The kissy one.
Now, honorable senators.
I have not finished.
Well, you've taken your seat. I presume you're done. I will now proceed to...
Mr. Speaker, I had not. With
So
due
then
respect.
why were you taking your seat?
Because I saw you rising. I can never remain on my feet when the Speaker of the Senate is on his feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to speak to the reasons why we cannot disagree. I mean, why we can easily disagree. The first one is that the people of Nairobi, Nakuru, Kiambu, and Kakamega can paralyze this debate by saying population factor should be enhanced. Let them give in, we lose something. The people of Marsabit, sorry, not people, the senators of Marsabit, Mr. Speaker, Mandera, Turkana, Wajir, Garissa, because of the vast, and Isiolo, the vast nature of their constituencies, they can very easily frustrate this debate by saying land mass, water mass. Mr. Speaker, the issue of poverty, we know the counties with high poverty indices, including Mandera, Wajir, Turkana, Kilifi, Kwale, and so on, they can frustrate this debate by, Mr. Speaker, insisting that we emphasize the factor on poverty. I appeal to them, let's give and take. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to our professionals at the Commission of Revenue Allocation, who had proposed that in this formula, we introduce a new factor called income distance. I would like them to bear with the committee that we understood them very well and tried to see how best we can carry the country on something which 99% of Kenyans were hearing for the first time in their lives, despite their good education. We want to persuade them that the nearest we can bring to income distance is that it was trying to factor in the gross county product, something that is not backed by proper data in the country as we speak today. And therefore, going forward, maybe income distance will be a factor in sharing formula in this country. And what's more, it was being best, Mr. Speaker, on Nairobi, and yet Nairobi is one of the counties sharing with the other counties. If, for example, the way I was looking at it, our experts from CRA, this formula was being applied in the United States of America, then it would have been easier for somebody from Pennsylvania, knowing that it was being based on Washington, D.C., to understand, because in the United States of America, Washington, D.C. is not regarded as at the same level like the other states. Mr. Speaker, having said this, I want, with due respect, all politics is local, to speak my locality. When devolution came, there are a few of us, and I'm glad that Speaker was there, Senator Mungatana was there, Oburu Dinga was there, and Mr. Speaker, that is as many as we were that time. There are those of us who believed, and we ended up being in the minority, that what we needed was to create economically viable units. So much so that at that time, we were talking about a maximum of 14 counties. Well, the emotions of we don't want our community to be in the same county with this community, or we want our community to have its own county, or we want our community to have so many counties, then carried the day. But today, in the third cycle of devolution, we are now realizing that bigger economic blocks present better viabilities for our counties than the smaller ones. This morning, the Senator of Vihiga, while you are away, I remembered how out of the blues Vihiga was hived out of Kakamega. We never told them. The people of Idaho, the people of Isuka were doing very well when they were with the Terikis, the Banyores, and the Maragolis of Vihiga. The people of Cabras were doing very well when we were like that. In fact, the intermarriages that have been taking place between our houses, sometimes our children will start thinking that the people of Vihiga are different from the people of Kakamega. It's not true. So, I feel very uncomfortable that Kakamega can get so many billions of shillings, and Vihiga, where my own sisters and brothers are, they get almost nothing to do meaningful flagship projects. So that in 10 years, when you go to the bigger brother in Kakamega, we have realized a stadium, multi-billion, a teaching and referral hospital, multi-billion, hundreds of kilometers of tarmac roads worth hundreds of millions of shillings, Mr. Speaker. And yet in Vihiga, they can hardly do anything. So, this provoked us, Mr. Speaker, to agree with the Kamkunji, which proposed that despite having a basic allocation of 387.5 billion shillings to make sure that no county loses, we should bring in another factor which the Parliamentary Budgets Office, for lack of a better terminology, called it the affirmative action allocation. This affirmative allocation is meant to say the following, members of the public, that 11 counties in this country, they get below 5 billion, which they spend literally on recurrent expenditure. There isn't much development that you can talk about, and this is what I was referring to my neighbor Vihiga. So we've said, let us have an affirmative action that will attract some more funds, but not lead to the rest of the counties losing, so that whereas all of us are winning, but the 11 counties to be brought up so that they have slightly more money for development. These counties, Mr. Speaker, Nyamira, Samburu, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, Vihiga County, Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Isiolo, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, and Lam. This is what we decided. And now, this was after drawing from the wisdom of Embu, of the two Kamkunjis. So this is enough reason for us to say, Senator Osoti, that the consultation that you want to look for has sufficiently been addressed. Nothing can be perfect. I remember the senator of Kitui. He persuaded me in the first Kamkunji. He brought the analogy of pickups carrying vaccines to go from the center to some area in North Horr. I was convinced. And this is the purpose of debate. As the Senator of Nairobi has said, we listen to each other so that we can convince each other for the good of the country. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, before I conclude, allow me to congratulate the football fans of Gor Mahia FC of Homa Bay. When we went to play yesterday against Gor Mahia, we were worried that there was going to be the misbehavior I saw between the fans in Kisii of Sabana and Gor Mahia. It was very shameful to see Kenyan fans injuring each other at Gusii Stadium just because Shabana was fighting, was playing against Gor Mahia. Yesterday, most of my young people are telling me, should we go? I told them, go. I have talked to Oburu. I've talked to Kajuang. I've talked to Beatrice Oyomo. And they have told me that for the first time, Luos will not make noise. They will just be cheering. We know you as our noisy neighbors, and we don't complain. But yesterday, I congratulate. With those many marks, Mr. Speaker, I second.
Honorable Senators, I'll now proceed to propose the question that the Senate notes the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the fourth basis for the allocating of the share of national revenue among the counties laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 17th of April 2025, and that pursuant to Article 217(1) of the Constitution, approves the fourth basis for allocating the share of national revenue among the counties for the financial years 2025, 2026 to 2029, 2030 as follows. County allocation equals baseline allocation ratio at Kenya shillings 387.425 billion plus Kenya shillings 2 billion shared equally among the identified 11 counties, plus 0.45 population index, plus 0.35 eco-share index, plus 0.12 poverty index, plus 0.08 geographical size index, additional county equitable share above the 389.425 billion, where one, baseline allocation ratio equals to the allocation factor derived from each county's allocation for the financial year 2024-2025, and two, the 11 identified counties are Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Isiolo, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, Lamu, Nyamira, Samburu, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, and Vihiga. 3, the population index is based on the 2019 Kenya population and housing census. 4, the poverty index is based on the 2022 Kenya poverty report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And 5, geographical size is capped at 10%. Now, honorable senators, the floor is now open for debate. I will call upon the honorable senator for Vihiga to take the floor.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Although I've just pressed my button now, but I have no problem being the first one to start. Mr. Speaker, this exercise we are doing is only done once in 5 years. That means this formula will be with us for 5 years, and will be the formula that is going to be used for division of revenue. And that's why we really need to create an environment for consensus and not contestation between the so-called small counties and the big counties. Mr. Speaker, I am a senator of one of the so-called small counties, the counties that receive less amount of money from the shareable revenue. And I want to refer the members of this House to the Constitution. Article 203 of the Constitution provides the basis of how the sharing will be done. Basically, the principles to be complied with when making a decision on the sharing formula. And I want to refer members to two very important principles. The principle under that Article 203(1), Principle G, which is economic disparities within and among counties and the need to remedy them. I also refer you to H of that chapter 203(1), the need for affirmative action in respect of disadvantaged areas and groups. Mr. Speaker, this is very, very important constitutional principle, which this House should not ignore.
Order, Senator Kinyua. May the Senator for Vihiga be heard in silence.
These are two very, very critical constitutional principles which this House cannot ignore, and which the previous three formulas have ignored. And I'm going to demonstrate that shortly, Mr. Speaker. That we cannot continue disadvantaging some counties at the expense of others, because devolution was meant to ensure equitable and balanced development across the country. Honorable Khalwale has just given an example between Kakamega County and Vihiga County, which are neighbors, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is so sad that a county like Vihiga County cannot do any meaningful development, and the immediate neighbors, which is Kakamega, where my friend and my elder brother comes from, is doing major projects, Mr. Speaker. And Honorable Khalwale, you know very well that Vihiga County, Mr. Speaker, a mere 1 kilometer of road. Kakamega has constructed a road up to Iregi on the boundary. From Iregi to Chavakali Junction is about 1 kilometer. Vihiga County has not been able to complete the road because of low budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other day, we were shown on television, Kidundu Stadium, which is looking so bad, Mr. Speaker. And yet you go to Kakamega, they have an international stadium, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is high time we looked at the provision of the Constitution, particularly Article 203(1), on the issue of economic disparity among the counties and the need to uplift the disadvantaged counties and groups, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we don't do this, devolution will mean nothing for some counties. Mr. Speaker, the small counties are basically employment bureaus. They employ people, but they cannot do any development. And yet, Mr. Speaker, you know very well that the staff establishment in all these counties is the same. But the money that remains for development is very little. Mr. Speaker, let me now come to the two formulas. I want to address the CRA formula, and I also want to address the committee formula. Mr. Speaker, it is unfair for us to see in this House and our own committee of the Senate, the Finance Committee, which is supposed to protect our interests, is giving us less money than what CRA is giving us. And I want to demonstrate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the CRA tried to look at these two parameters, the parameter of economic disparity and the parameter of affirmative action. And they tried to help the small counties. I know some of the big counties lost, but we would have gotten a clear balance so that we are not disfranchised by our own committee. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the report by the committee, they have conveniently left out the simulation based on CRA formula. If you look at the simulation for CRA, Mr. Speaker, Elgeyo Marakwet was getting 392 million on top of what they're getting. The committee is giving them 241 million. So they are losing over 150 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Embu is losing, yes, on the CRA formula. Committee gave them 256 and they are getting 85. But that is just one county. But the most serious effect is on Senator Dulo's county, Isiolo. The committee is giving Isiolo 257 million. CRA is giving Isiolo 1,137 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Lamu, the committee gave Lamu 177 million.
Senator Osotsi, there is a point of information if you desire to be given the information by Senator Roba.
Yeah, he's the chairman of the committee. He can give me information.
Proceed.
But I have very crucial information also.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I would like to guide the Honorable Senator Osotsi that the numbers he's making reference to, he has to share with the House whether it is based on CRA based the allocation on 417 billion as shareable revenue. The numbers he's making reference to is at 405. So he needs to clarify so that it's very clear in terms of what shareable revenue is he basing the numbers he's discussing on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The formula, the numbers are based on 4 or 5 billion. And remember, I started by saying the committee should have done us a favor by also publishing the simulation based on CRA formula, which they didn't do, Mr. Speaker. And we have gone ahead to get the simulation ourselves. Mr. Speaker, let me proceed. Lamu is gaining 568 million, and the committee is giving them 177 million. Laikipia, CRA is giving them 478 million. The committee is giving them 263 million. Nyamira is getting 356 million. The committee is giving them 260 million. Taita Taveta is getting 481 on CRA. The committee is giving them 246. Tharakanithi is getting 483 million. The committee is giving them 219 million. Vihiga, my own county, CRA is giving them 609 million. The committee is giving us 263 million. Samburu, the CRA is giving them 547. The committee is giving them
Eddie,
261
Senator Eddie, what is your point
million.
Mr. Speaker, because I sit in that committee, I also stand on 105, responsibility for statement of fact. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate what Senator Osotsi is doing in terms of reading the 11 counties considered to be small counties, losing or gaining. But I think for the purposes of the public, if you're going to read the CRA formula that was given, then you ought to read it for all counties. Because that's the first thing. You have to read it for the all counties, because when you read it for the all counties, Mr. Speaker, there were counties that were also bigger counties that were losing, as well as some counties that were gaining. So it is not in order to inform the public that it's only the smaller counties that were affected by the CRA formula. Secondly, the CRA formula was based on 417. Our formula is based on a baseline of 387 plus 405 that has come from the National Assembly. So that means that fact needs to be presented correctly so that there is no misguiding the public.
Senator Osotsi, I hope you are...
Mr. Speaker, you know I'm very thorough in what I do.
Yes.
Everything I do, I'm very thorough.
In your being
I
thorough,
have done my research very well.
In your being thorough,
yes.
I know you're always very thorough, but in your being thorough, do not put an impression out there that only 11 counties have been isolated for losing. Well, that is the impression that...
Mr. Speaker, I'm just demonstrating the points here.
As you demonstrate, pick one big county or three that have also lost. There's a number of counties also
I am
lost.
demonstrating the point here using the counties that I've listed. But I have done the simulation for
under
all
the CRA
47.
formula, are the 11 counties, are they the only ones that are losing?
There are counties which are losing, yes, under CRA. But what I'm trying to say is that even as we go for another formula, let us not have a huge loss from the CRF formula compared to the committee formula. That is the point I'm bringing, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, having said this comparison, I want to request my colleagues in this House that have some sympathy on us from the small counties, because we have laid our case about development, and I'm happy Senator Halwale has really supported that. So we ask you, honorable colleagues, that even as we discuss this, let us not be disadvantaged. And I think this is the basis in which the CRA came up with that formula they came. Mr. Speaker, the only way small counties can benefit, it is through equal share, because the other parameters are not favorable to small counties. When you talk about population, it's not favorable to us. When you talk about land size, it's not favorable to us. And if you go to the third basis formula, which had 8 parameters, population at 18%, health at 17%, basic share at 20%, poverty at 14%, land area at 8%, agriculture at 10%, urban services 5%, rural access 8%. All those factors, Mr. Speaker, except the basic share, do not favor the small counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am saying that because the formula that the committee is proposing to us, it has 2 components. It is taking 387, which was based on the third basis as a base, and then sharing the remaining 12 billion, and applying a basic share in this formula, Mr. Speaker, for clarity. Because I had some committee members saying we have increased the basic share. They have only increased the basic share on the 12 billion, not on the entire amount. The CRA was increasing the basic share from 20% to 22% on the entire amount with a 0 base. But this formula, it is putting 35% equal share on 12 billion only, Mr. Speaker. So it is not favorable to us. Mr. Speaker, all these factors of health, population, poverty, agriculture, urban, they are all based on population. They are population related. It doesn't favor the small counties, Mr. Speaker. And that is the formula that they have used in a component of that formula has been applied in the 4th basis proposal. Mr. Speaker, even the 2nd basis, Mr. Speaker, is still using population at 45%. Equal share, this one was favorable, 26%. Land, 8%. Poverty, 18%. All that is not favoring us, except the equal share. So what I'm saying is that if we really want to help small counties, all the other factors are not helping the small counties, but the factor of equal share. And that is the reason why CRA increased the equal share from 20% to 22%. And that is why, according to the CRA formula, the small counties are gaining. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we speak about this formula, let us look at the equal share. The equal share in this formula proposed by the committee is not favorable because it's being applied on 12 billion only, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about population, how I would wish that we talk about population density. Population density. In fact, whoever proposed this factors should have considered population density. A county like Kirinyaga, for instance, Mr. Speaker, a county like Vihiga, where people live in less than a half an acre piece of land, hugely populated. That contributes to many other factors like poverty and the rest. That has not been taken into account, Mr. Speaker, in this formula. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we need to consult more. We should not be in a hurry to pass this formula, because the first basis formula, the second basis formula, the third basis formula are all unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker, because they do not comply to Article 2 or 3 of the Constitution. And God forbid, if someone went to court, he would stop this process, Mr. Speaker, on the basis of Article 2 or 3 of the Constitution. We like that we sit down, reason together, and consider that one principle that all counties should gain. Second principle, we need to uplift the small counties. If we go that direction, Mr. Speaker, then we will make sense. And Mr. Speaker, at this point when we are discussing the formula, this is the point at which we have, depending on how we agree or how we push in this House, this is the point where we need to have a huge increase in shareable revenue. During the debate for the third basis, there was a huge increase in revenue because each county needed to gain. And for each county to gain, we don't need to look at the figures that has been there, 387 or 405. We look at the figure, for instance, 465 billion, Mr. Speaker, that we are proposing the DORA. So let us not put our minds on 387 or 405. Let us, as we discuss, let us focus on 465 billion, Mr. Speaker. And that is how you are going to help the small counties to make sense and be viable, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do not want to proceed beyond this. I want with humility to ask our colleagues, with humility, please be considerate. Think about those counties that cannot do development. Think about those counties that exist only to employ people, to pay salaries, and there is nothing that is happening. Mr. Speaker, even as we discuss that, I also want to encourage that the formula proposed by the committee should also have looked at the physical effort of the counties. Why are we giving money to the counties without making them accountable? The second basis tried to put it at 2%. We have a lot of challenges in our county in terms of physical accountability. Let us think about that. Even as we struggle to put more money to our counties, let us consider physical effort. And I also like the factor that was used in the second basis, development factor. Let us look at development factor, how development is done in our counties, and use that as a basis also for the new formula. So these are issues that I'm raising, but Mr. Speaker, we need to caucus more. We should not be in a hurry to pass this and come up with a formula that is acceptable to all of us. When we are being asked, where is your formula? Mr. Speaker, we have a very competent budget office in this House. We are making proposals. They will be able to come up with a formula from what I'm discussing here, Mr. Speaker, so that we agree, we look at the simulation, and move forward as one House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say I will reject this formula as it is, but I'm open for more discussion to have an agreeable formula that will be fair to all the counties. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Honorable Senators, Senator Mofaya, take a seat. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting teachers and students from Kigumo Bendera High School in Muranga County. The delegation comprises 114 students and 5 teachers who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposure. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator of Muranga. I thought he was in the House. Senator Kirinyaga, would you be so kind as to welcome the students?
Asante sana Mr. Speaker kwa kunipa hii nafasi. Kwanza ningetaka kuwakaribisha wanafunzi kutoka Kigumo Bendera kwa niaba ya Senator Muranga ambaye kidogo ametoka nje. Na niseme ya kwamba Muranga ni mojawapo ya kaunti ambayo imetoa watu mashuhuri ambao wamekuwa kiwakilisha na kufanyia Kenya hii kazi nzuri sana. Na kwa hivyo wanapoendelea na masomo wajue ya kwamba kesho yao ndio wanaweza kuwa seneta katika hili nyumba ama hata rais wa nchi hii. Kwa hivyo pamoja na kuwakaribisha, nawaambia kwanza watie bidii katika masomo na kuwatii walimu wao. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to make my comments on this particular motion, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to confess that I was present in the first Kamkunj. Today morning, I was here by 7:30. In fact, I had to leave the burial for a priest that was killed that took place today in Nandi, but I attended the requirements yesterday in Eldoret, Honorable Speaker. Because of this particular motion, which is very important, and the Kamuguji that we had in the morning, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the wisdom for devolution, the reason why Kenyans were agitating for devolution, Honorable Speaker, was to ensure there is equitable development across the country, because some sections of the country perceived, if they are not in government or if they don't have somebody powerful to influence development to go to the areas, Honorable Speaker, they might be disadvantaged. But it is so sad, Honorable Speaker, that 13 years into devolution, 11 counties have been very busy basically paying salaries and doing nothing, maybe maintenance, Honorable Speaker. That is why, as a caucus, we said, for this particular fourth basis of the formula, Honorable Speaker, maybe we need to talk, converse amongst ourselves and convince each other, Honorable Speaker, that we need all our counties to do something meaningful that we can be proud of devolution, Honorable Speaker. Otherwise, currently, we are not proud. We are only proud that we have additional elected positions like the senator, the governor, and the MCAs, Honorable Speaker, and women rep. Otherwise, for a county like Elgeyo Marakwet County, there is nothing much that has been done because of the Miaka resources that we have been receiving since 2013, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I take you through Article 203 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, on equitable share and other functional laws, Honorable Speaker. Section 1 of 203, but F, Honorable Speaker, it says development and other needs. Basically, the title is the following criteria shall be taken into account in determining the equitable share provided for under Article 202 and in all national legislation concerning county governments enacted in terms of the character. National interest, that is A, Honorable Speaker. If you go to Honorable Speaker, C, the needs of the national government determined by objectives, criteria. D, the need to ensure that county governments are able to perform the functions allocated to them. E, the fiscal capacity and efficiency of county governments. F, development and other needs of county governments, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this article is very clear that we need to take care of counties. We need to ensure there is equitable development, Honorable Speaker. You can imagine, I've just said for the last 13 years, the 11 counties, basically what they've been doing is pay salaries. That is why we have said, because of the opportunity that has arisen because as a result of the fourth basis of the formula, Honorable Speaker, that let us speak, let us talk to each other, let us converse and reason together. The Bible is very clear that when you come together and reason together, things will change. Honorable Speaker, we want to convince our colleagues, especially the four counties, Senator Kalwale talked about Nairobi, Kiambu, Kakamega, and Nakuru, where they are getting close to 15 billion each, Honorable Speaker, each year. We are saying Elgeyo Marakwet County started with about 2.something billion. In this current financial year, we are getting 4.8 billion. And the functions that they have been, that have been transferred to Elgeyo Marakwet County are the same functions these other counties are getting. If it is CCs, we all each have 10 CCs or 12. Chief officers, the same. We have the same number of hospitals, Honorable Speaker. So that's why we are saying, in this particular formula, we are in agreement that basically what the committee has proposed, the first 387.25, Honorable Speaker, so that no county loses. So that every county gets what they get currently. We are happy and comfortable with that particular proposal. Then we are saying now, can we do an affirmative action to ensure the 11 counties move towards 6 billion? The committee, as a result of the Kamkunji in the morning, have proposed 2 billion. We are saying, can we improve the 2 billion that has been proposed as a result of the Kamukunji in the morning? Can we put it up maybe to about 4.5? But our desire is 6.7. So that all counties, minimum, apart from Lamu, will be at 6 billion. And then Lamu moves from about 2.something billion to about 5 billion. So that is what we are saying. Can we look at this particular affirmative action of 2 billion for the 11 counties and improve it? Even if we don't go to 6.7, can we agree? Can we have a middle ground? Say 4.7, so that at least each county, before we share, whichever amount that is above 387, each of the smaller counties, the 11 counties, gets a minimum at least of 500 million. And then from there, we subject now the formula to anything above what we have agreed, Honorable Speaker. Senator Soto has just said that, the 35%, when you tell us that we are sharing using equal share of that 5%. That equal share of that 5%, Honorable Speaker, is not based on the entire. It is based on anything above 387. So it's basically either it's 17 billion or 30 billion, where we are going to have equal share of that 5%, and also population is still at 45. So it basically, it's still advantage to the bigger counties, Honorable Speaker. This is something that we need to reason together, because this money is not going to any one of us. It is going to our people. And your people, if you reside in Nairobi, or you are senator for Nairobi, or senator for Machakos, you have your people who are in Elgeyo Marakwet County. They need to benefit. They need to get development. They need to have good hospitals. They need to have medicine, Honorable Speaker, in these particular hospitals. So, Honorable Speaker, that is what we are saying. Let's reason together. And we have something that is agreeable, that is acceptable, because this is the formula that will take us for the next 5 years, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I also agree that we need to be serious. We cannot accept the 4-5 billion that is proposed by the National Treasury and National Assembly. We need to move to the 465 billion, Honorable Speaker, so that when we are putting our governors on task, on accountability, at least they have some reasonable resources to do something for us, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, please, let's debate, let's be sober as brothers and sisters to ensure that, we treat all our citizens equal. Otherwise, some of us are really disadvantaged completely, because even where we get the oversight funds, Honorable Speaker, what am I going to do oversight in Elgeyo Marakwet County? Because, I mean, am I going to check on how ECDs are being built? I mean, these are standard 2.something million shillings that they do at twin classrooms, Honorable Speaker. So please, members, let us come, reason together, agree, and please give us affirmative action. The proposal of 2 billion, that's a start. We want to bargain from the 2 billion. Can we improve it? Can we push it? Say 4 billion, 4.7. And then from there, we also don't have to take a lot of time talking. You know, the biggest challenge, the Speaker has said, we've been canvassing for the last 1 month. Why are we waiting? You know, the Kenyan mentality, we always like the last minute. Even if you give us another time, we'll not meet until the last minute again. Let us meet today, discuss, agree, and then we pass the bill. We pass the motion so that at least we can discuss other many things, because there are very many other pressing issues that we need to discuss as Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I reserve my support for the motion. I'll support it with amendments where Elgeyo Marakwet County is going to reach at least 6 billion so that something can be done for my people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, in our journey for leadership, we were told that sometimes it is good for you to concede that there are things that are complex, even for you as a leader, and you need to take time to listen to experts and people who have experiences in those fields so that they can guide you. Honorable Speaker, I must admit that ever since I came to this floor of this House, these matters of the formula and the parameters that are being proposed by CRA and the conversations from our colleagues is one of the most difficult conversations to grasp. Speaker, no wonder if you look at Article 215, Sub-Article 4, on what qualifies you to be a member of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, which is the commission that makes these recommendations. It says that to be qualified to be a member of the commission under this section, a person shall have extensive professional experience in financial and economic matters. Honorable Speaker, I remember the very first time the CRA put out a proposal in terms of the revenue sharing formula. I took time to seek out some friends of mine who are commissioners on the CRA. And Honorable Speaker, first of all, the picture that they painted for our country was quite grim for me. That, Honorable Speaker, we rely on data and statistics that are kept in the ministries and departments and agencies, but that data is so corrupt and corrupted and skewed that it is almost totally unreliable. If you start there, Honorable Speaker, and knowing, for instance, that this formula that is being proposed by the committee attaches extreme significance to certain data sets, the first one being population. Now, Honorable Speaker, you and me know that where immediately you raise the question of the census of 2019, there are people who will tell you that that census itself is flawed. In fact, there is already a court decision, Senator Mungatana can correct me if I'm wrong, on the legality of the figures that were put out by government following the census of 2019. So if you attach 45%, Honorable Speaker, weight to that data set, there's already problems. But we are willing to be guided. And the most heartbreaking thing, Honorable Speaker, is that there are professionals who sit in these ministries. There are professionals who sit in our government agencies who will massage numbers for data, for health, for agriculture, for all sorts of things, to skew allocation of national resources towards their regions and even their communities. It is something that professional bodies in this country must look into. So, Honorable Speaker, we have a problem with the 2019 census. We have a problem with the poverty index. How are we supposed to navigate this entire process? So for me, what I usually do, Honorable Speaker, if there is problems with the math and the numbers, we must always fall back to what we consider the guiding principles. During the mediation last year, and I've just seen breaking news now that, as expected, the National Assembly has rejected our proposal of 465 billion to the counties, which is throwing us into another mediation, the fourth straight mediation since this Senate began. That when we were in that last mediation, there are certain things that we agreed on. And also, Honorable Speaker, there are certain positions that the political party that I belong to has taken with regards to devolution and which are supposed to be guiding my decisions in this House when it comes to devolution. The first one, Honorable Speaker, we as a party and even as this House have set the standard somewhere that it doesn't matter what formula you adopt, no county must lose when you compare previous year allocations. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, that after the allocation, whatever formula you use, year on year, there must be marginal growth of the devolution basket to cater for obvious things, including year-on-year inflation, including growth in salaries and wages due to implementation of collective bargaining agreements. Speaker, you know I sit on the Public Accounts Committee. Just the other day, the governor for Makueni appeared before us, and we had one of the most illuminating conversations, because you will see, Honorable Speaker, that because of decisions that are made by national government, for instance, they want county governments to do this county aggregation in industrial parks, and you're supposed to match the money that is put by the national government to do that project. He says in Makueni, because of the nature of the topography and how the unique circumstances of the county, they tried to convince national government that they did not need KIPES. They did not need single centers for aggregation of produce because of the diversity of produce in that county. And it would be very expensive for some people or some of the farmers to transport product from one place to the center. Honorable Speaker, he also told us, he gave us a very clear example, that if you look at the amount of money increment for Makueni County in 2023, 2024, 2024, 2025 is about 55 million Kenya shillings only. But in that same period, if you look at the responsibilities that have been put, fiscal responsibilities on the county, because of the passage of laws that are here in the National Assembly and the Senate, for instance, on SHA and SHIF, this is a new levy that was introduced. If you look at the housing levy alone has added an additional burden to Makueni of 55 million. And yet the annual increase in equitable revenue is 52. So it doesn't make any sense, Honorable Speaker. So we have said that year on year, we want to see marginal increase to cater for these things, including review of salaries and wages for the staff. Then, Honorable Speaker, the final principle was that any shortfall in national revenue or shareable revenue should be borne by the national government. So, Honorable Speaker, we have no problem. Whatever formula is adopted, the position that we have taken is that no county should lose. And we are willing to have that conversation with our colleagues. Now, there is some plea that has come from 11 of our colleagues who represent counties they themselves are calling small counties. And we have a few questions for them, Senator Osotsi and your group. Number one, where did you pluck this 6 billion figure from? What is the scientific basis for that figure? Because although these conversations are complex, we cannot say that you owe a responsibility to explain to us where you got 6 billion. Because why not 7? Why not 5? Why not 8? Number two, Honorable Speaker, if the argument is that most of this money goes to recurrent expenditure, we sit in the Public Accounts Committee, and Honorable Speaker, some of those counties, if you hear the stories in those counties, you will see that there is absolutely no justification to add the money. My view has always been that at the advent of devolution, people thought that counties existed to serve their tribes, that this was our county. It is the reason why if you come from Bungoma and you go and apply for a job in Kakamega, they'll tell you, you go back to your county. Even if you are a Bukusu person, man or woman, born in Kakamega. Many people will not distinguish between a Kisi from Nyamira and one from Kisi County. But they themselves at the local level know this one is from Nyamira and this one is from Kisii. And you cannot apply for jobs there because they'll tell you, your share is there, you go and get yours there. That is the true situation. So you find we had a county entity speaker that comes to the Public Accounts Committee, and a governor has hired over 30 advisors. And that county has only 2 constituencies, Honorable Speaker. There are less than 10 MCAs in that county. But he has hired for himself over 34 advisors. That is what the money for the county is going to. The governor wants to be able to go to every village and say, I employed so-and-so's son, he's working in my county government. I've employed so-and-so's son, he's working in the county government. And all of them, Honorable Speaker, I think with the exception of only Nairobi, they have never even complied with the requirement of ethnic balance in their counties, which is demonstrating my point, that people think these counties exist to serve the dominant communities in those regions. The last question I want our colleagues from these counties to answer, Senator Osotsi and group, is that if we are indeed amenable, if we are amenable to meeting your request, so that we avoid those instances, the examples we've given, where every single resource that goes to the county is still going to end up in personnel emoluments and governors adding themselves more advisors, can they agree, Honorable Speaker, that whatever amount is added in terms of what you have called, I don't know which was the term he used, affirmative, that we ring-fence that amount of money, whatever it is, for the development that you are claiming is going towards. Because we don't want a situation where you get that affirmative action fund, whatever it is you want to call it, and then it all goes to hiring more people on the ground. So, Honorable Speaker, for us, we were elected to represent our individual counties. The people of Nairobi expect that I will put up a fight for them to be able to get the highest possible allocation that we can get. But, Speaker, for me, I am very clear in my mind, even when we were doing the MOU with our counterparts from UDA, that because devolution is something that we hold dear as ODM, we have drawn a certain line in the sand. I am happy that the Senate improved on the proposal from us under that MOU for 450 billion. We have passed as a House 465. Honorable Speaker, I don't know why people get upset when I speak about that MOU. I honestly do not understand, because it is a reminder of the things that we have committed ourselves to. And every single day, we have opportunity to remind each other that this is what we agreed upon. Because we look at things happening in this country. In the morning, I was telling the majority leader how I was very proud to hear him say on national TV that some things that are happening don't make sense, even to him. You know, when it came to the arrest of this young, coder on Twitter for creating a website that we could harness feedback on the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, those things don't make sense to me. Why would you arrest such a person? For what? So even on the question of devolution, we have a responsibility to remind each other that these are the things that we have agreed upon. And when I say I'm keeping score or I have the marking scheme, that is the job of the SG of the party. That is the responsibility I've been given, Honorable Speaker. So for this one, so that we cut down all this noise and we are able to meet everybody's need, let us make sure that we get 450 billion Kenya shillings for devolution. And I want to insist that the national government, 465, but minimum 450 that we agreed in the MOU. Just to remind my brother, the treasurer, the National Treasury, the CS, that this is what we agreed to, and we have an expectation from you that you will deliver for the family of devolution. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to debate this motion. Mr. Speaker, I really support what the chairman has proposed and the committee has proposed before this House. I, Mr. Speaker, have been a benefit of the 2 informal meetings that we call Kamukunjis. Mr. Speaker, when this formula was proposed, I had the idea that I must do and say everything and anything so that Tana River can get more money. And so, Mr. Speaker, I tried to talk to colleagues here so that they can add one more percentage point to landmass, which we then changed and made and called geographical area so that it covers water. I also said that the poverty index should go from 12 to at least 13%, to add another 1%. But Mr. Speaker, when we sat with colleagues here and discussed, most of the colleagues were showing that 11 counties were going to lose money, and that we must speak as senators for the Republic of Kenya. We must not speak as senators just from our counties. And Mr. Speaker, with that in mind, this formula we have agreed using the factor of 0.387, the baseline fact. Mr. Speaker, no county is going to lose any money. So this has taken care of what all of us were afraid of. So if no county is losing money, Mr. Speaker, what do we do with the rest of the other factors that we needed to factor in the formulation of the fourth basis formula? Mr. Speaker, when we sat here this morning and in previous Kamkunji, we said that whatever the Committee of Finance had proposed, no county was going to lose. No county was going to lose. But if we stuck strictly to the formula on the poverty index, the geographical area, and the population index, then there are 11 counties that will get very little, if at all, any increment at all. So this morning, Mr. Speaker, as we sat here, we convinced each other that let us allocate 2 billion shillings for those counties so that they can have a reasonable increment. And Mr. Speaker, when we left here, the representative for the small counties was very happy. I left here knowing that even this afternoon, possibly, we will finish this debate. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we said that those who feel very strongly that they will come with a better simulation of the formula or an improvement of what we have, they need to come with papers. That is what we agreed. They need to come with pieces of paper. They need to work with the Parliamentary Budget Office so that figures can be created that will convince all of us. So we even agreed in the morning, Mr. Speaker, that we shall move this motion this afternoon. When we moved this motion, we also agreed this morning as a principle that any person who is having a different opinion can bring us the paperwork so that we can accommodate them. But the most significant breakthrough that we had with the small counties here was that we said we shall ring-fence 2 billion shillings that will be equally shared amongst the 11 counties that were getting very little increment. And we left here very happy. Mr. Speaker, it seems that the people have tasted blood, so they want to come. You know, in the sea, Mr. Speaker, if you get injured for whatever reason and blood leaks out a bit, all the other carnivorous people follow you, and not people, but the other fishes, they come to finish you. So I don't know what is happening. We have agreed on this formula. We have yielded and said we are ring-fencing 2 billion shillings. So we have said, let us start with this, and if there's anything else, again, we will reconsider. So now, all of a sudden, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing another attempt at increasing that amount again to a higher level. Now it seems then that there are those who are playing with the cards that are open, and there are those who are playing with the cards open and cards under that are hidden. And Mr. Speaker, in this way we shall not make progress. Because if we have ring-fenced 2 billion shillings, and we have said small counties are going to get equal amount on this, what is the problem again? Why should people now, I'm hearing colleagues talking about adding 4.7 billion. Then this means, Mr. Speaker, even those counties that were now getting, because that same amount must be taken away from the original cake. So then the whole thing now will collapse. I am asking colleagues, with a lot of respect, that if we have agreed on something, let us carry it to the conclusion, the logical conclusion. Let us not be looking at this matter in terms of what is my county getting. We agreed here in the morning that we are going to speak as Kenyans, not according to County Tana River and other counties. We said that we are going to carry all of us. And because of that spirit, Mr. Speaker, we conceded that whatever amount that will be allocated, let us set aside 2 billion to carry the 11 counties. So now, colleagues are now suggesting that we should go as high as 4.7 billion. This, Mr. Speaker, is not the correct way to tackle these things. Because we also would like even a change of that formulation. We would like to look at it so that our own counties can benefit. But we've said, let us be patriotic, let us be agreeable, let us agree, and what we agreed here informally is what we are going to put today. Mr. Speaker, we had said this in the morning, that those who are not attending the informal meetings will come and bring confusion, and now confusion is coming. In fact, I remember very well that it was Honorable Morango who was giving us a very good Kiswahili proverb that I can't quite recall, that says that those who are not there may come in the can you give it to us, Mheshimiwa? That's the one that said that, I don't know, those who come later. Yeah, he can.
Senator Murango, Senator Mungatana, would you like to be informed by
yes,
Senator
Mr.
Murango?
Speaker, I want to be informed of that.
Mstahiki Spika, nilikuwa nimepeana katika falsafa yangu, nilisema ya kwamba katika siku mbaya, siku ya imbu ya kuku, upepo ambao unafunua kuku manyoya na kuionyesha uchi inakuja tu kutoka nyuma. Nikipeana sababu ama nikipeana mfano ya wale ambao watakuja nyuma na kuongea mambo mengi kwa sababu hako kwa mkutano. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator, because you have extremely good and fantastic capture of the Kiswahili language, very rich. And Mr. Speaker, nothing can demonstrate it more than what Honorable Senator has put. That the ones who are going, the ones who are the wind that comes from behind is the chicken is the one that makes the wings and those manyoyas. I don't know what we call them in English again. To expose the skin of the chicken. And the ones that come behind, and they've come behind, they have started exposing that skin again. And we had covered it so well. We had agreed, because that debate was here in the morning, Mr. Speaker. And it was here in the morning, and we went through all the things. We agreed we don't destabilize things. We don't quarrel. We don't fight. Let us speak like Kenyans. And we agreed that we are going to carry even those who are calling themselves small counties. So, Mr. Speaker, what I want to urge colleagues is that unless there is a very nice, and that is also, we agreed that if you have, you can circulate another simulation developed by the Parliamentary Budget Office through maybe suggestion of this principle to improve on what we have, then we can go with what has been proposed. But if that has not come, because up to now, Mr. Speaker, there is no paper that has been circulated. People are speaking generalities, you know. We are requesting, Mr. Speaker, that surely if the formulation can be brought afresh, that will say that what we agreed upon in the morning has been improved, and by what margin and how it was improved, then let us move, because we said that we are going to be open, we are going to speak as Kenyans, we are not going to fight because this formula is supposed to be the best that we can get for the next 5 years to guard how we are going to allocate our resources across the counties. And Mr. Speaker, from what we agreed in the morning, nothing has come out to improve on that formulation. From where we sat, because if it was indeed there, we would have seen it even on the order paper or something circulated, or the chair would have told us. I don't know, I'm seeing this paper. But Mr. Speaker, what we are saying, unless there is a tremendous improvement on what we did, I think the morning formula was the best. We took care to make sure no county has lost. We took care and put aside 2 billion shillings for the counties that had very little improvement in terms of very marginal increments. So I do not see why we cannot agree on this formula and we make progress. Mr. Speaker, I submit that the formula should go as proposed and seconded on the motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting teachers and students from Oshol Academy in Mombasa County. The delegation comprises 37 students and 4 teachers who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposure. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Kinyo, if you could please welcome the students and teachers.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Nachukua fursa hii kuwakaribisha wanafunzi kutoka shule ya Osho kutoka Mombasa, kuambia karibuni sana pamoja na walimu mliokuja nao. Alafu niwaambie hii ndio seneti na mmefanya vizuri kuja hapa ndio muweze kujifunza mambo yanavyotendeka hapa, na tunawatakia kila laheri kwa sababu nyinyi ndio viongozi wa kesho. Nyinyi ndio marais wa kesho, maseneta wa kesho, na vile vile mtaweza kubombea katika mambo yote ambayo mtakayofanya. Kwa hivyo karibuni sana na muendelee kujifunza mengi ndio muweze kuwa viongozi wa kuaminika miaka yenu ya usoni. Asanteni sana Bwana Spika.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to contribute to the debate on a matter that is one of the most important functions of the Senate. Mr. Speaker, Article 217 of the Constitution requires the Senate, and not just Parliament, to determine the basis for allocating among the counties the share of national revenue that is annually allocated to the county level of government. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the few original functions of the Senate. You remember, even impeachment begins at the National Assembly. That is where the indictment is done and trial is done in this chamber. But when it comes to this formula, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear that it is the Senate that originates it by a resolution. And in the event the National Assembly disagrees with the Senate, the threshold has also been defined. The threshold is so high that it can only be amended by the National Assembly if 2/3 of the members of the Assembly vote in support of an amendment. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important exercise that is done every 5 years. If you look at comparative jurisdictions, the United Kingdom has been struggling with the concept of devolution, the sharing of resources between the center and the other entities like Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. But in their case, they came up with what is called the Barnet formula. The Barnet formula is fairly fixed. I know it has been criticized, and it has featured even when the regions are doing referendum for secession. The Barnet formula has been accused of perpetuating disparities amongst the regions. But in the UK, you do not really need a resolution of Parliament to decide how resources are shared between Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. In South Africa, Mr. Speaker, we've got the provincial equitable share formula. And Mr. Speaker, South Africa, their devolution structure is not very, very different from devolution structure. In Nigeria also, they've got a formula which has a lot of parameters that is given effect through an act of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, since we promulgated this constitution, we have had 3 formulas. But Mr. Speaker, the first formula and the second formula were largely the same. If you looked at the factors that were there, it was just tinkering with the numbers, slight tinkering with numbers. In the first formula, population was at 45%, and it was the same in the second formula. Equitable share was at 25% in the first one, it was 26% in the second one. So Kenya has not really changed the basis of allocation of revenue until the third formula. Mr. Speaker, I was in the House when we had the classic debate on the third formula for revenue allocation. And Mr. Speaker, it took almost 11 sittings of this House. Each sitting was extremely volatile, was extremely noisy, was extremely contentious, as we sought to find a middle ground to ensure that there was some equity in allocation of resources. When the plenary could not resolve the matter, and when Kamkunjis, the ones Senator Mungatana has referred to, could not resolve the matter, because as it was then, and as is now, we'd go into Kamkunjis and agree informally, but then when members came to the floor, they would play to the gallery, or they would play to the political persuasions that they subscribed to, and for 11 meetings, we could not agree on anything. Ultimately, the House resolved to set up a bipartisan committee. Mr. Speaker, I was privileged to be a member of that committee. This committee was co-chaired by Senator Moses Wetangula and the current governor of Nairobi, Governor Sakaja. Mr. Speaker, we spent a lot of time in this chamber. We did almost 1 week of meetings. But ultimately, the agreement that we came up with, I can tell you, was not based on any science. It was based on this concept called holding harmless. It was based on the concept of making sure that nobody lost. And so we froze an amount and said that a certain amount would still be distributed on the basis of the second formula. And we introduced a new formula that would apply on increments from that threshold that we had defined. Mr. Speaker, in my view, the third formula was perhaps more scientific and more service-driven and more sector-driven. Because in the third formula, we brought in aspects of service delivery. We put a measure on health. And on measuring health, we were looking at picking data and seeing, how many level 4, level 3s, dispensaries that a county has. And CRA had a worksheet that had all that data. Now, the problem was some counties, in a bid to look good, had upgraded a lot of their hospitals to be level 4 in name, but there was nothing in terms of facility. As a result, Mr. Speaker, I realized that between Homa Bay County and Migori County, Migori was getting almost 200 million more on the health index because they had fewer level 4 hospitals. Homa Bay was getting less because my governor then wanted to show that he was working, so he upgraded a lot of level 4. So it looked like Homa Bay was doing better on the health index. We had certain parameters around agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, I do recall the then Senator for Nairobi brought it to our attention that agriculture is not just a rural occupation or preoccupation. And he gave us as an example that one of the main dairy producers in this country is here in Nairobi. I think there's someone who operates in Karen and produces a lot of milk, perhaps more milk than any other producer around. The third formula was elegant in the manner in which it broke down the service dimensions. The only failure was lack of accurate data to back it up. And Mr. Speaker, even the Rural Access Index was based on the number of roads in a county. But you know we have had a problem with classification of roads because the national government does not want to let go of roads to county governments, and so there's been some frustration in ensuring that roads are classified. If we had accurate data, Mr. Speaker, I would still insist that this country continues to use the third formula. But the proposal by the Finance Committee is a de facto endorsement of the third formula. Because in the spirit of holding harmless, the Finance Committee has told us that 387 billion would still be distributed on the basis of the old formula. And any increment above that would be subjected to a new formula. I think to some extent it is a confirmation. Now, what I am not sure about is that whether in the 387 billion, the factors or the data that was used back then will be refreshed or will just freeze the amounts as they were. If we freeze the amounts as they were, I think that would make sense, because going back to the data and tinkering with it might lead to unexpected results. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this fourth formula that the Finance Committee proposes, 96% is a third basis, and only 4% is a fourth basis, assuming that we are going to be allocating the 405 billion that was brought to this House by the National Assembly. I want to encourage the House. Let us increase the base. That is where the solution lies. We are fighting over small fragments because we think that counties should only get 387 billion or 405 billion. Mr. Speaker, the political formation to which I belong has clear, unequivocal instructions that we must support devolution. We must give effect to devolution as captured in the Constitution. And if we are to be faithful to the Constitution, we must give resources to our county governments, and we have made it clear 450 billion Kenya shillings is a bare minimum. I know that the Senate has recommended 465 billion. If you can get 465 billion, I'll be very happy. The instructions I have, Mr. Speaker, 450 billion, nothing more. Well, something could be more, but nothing less. Because with 450 billion, the small counties, and I don't know why we want to call some counties small. Why should you call your county a small county? Simply because of the revenue. Why should you call your county small? Simply because you have a governor who does not know how to be fiscally responsible and fiscally prudent. Why should you tarnish the name of your county by calling it small? Mr. Speaker, we have seen big counties in quotes that cannot make fiscal sense or fiscal responsibility sense. We have seen small counties in quote that have been able to undertake programs that have been transformational. This obsession of now County X has done a tarmac, 10 kilometers of tarmac, and County Y cannot do tarmac. Really, if we put pressure on the national government to let go of the money that is sitting at Kera, money sitting at Kura, money sitting at the Ministry of Roads, I am sure that will be a few tens of billions that would go to counties, and it would be shared out amongst the counties. Mr. Speaker, water is a devolved function, but we still have the national government sitting with huge budgets for water. We see national government officials moving around and giving boreholes in villages, a job that should be done by the governors and the counties. Let us push for that money to go down. Mr. Speaker, housing is a function of county governments. Just this weekend, we have launched affordable housing in Homa Bay County, and I do congratulate the national government for bringing this to fruition. Of course, these houses are being built using money that is taxed, or where Kenyans are taxed, so it is not like the government is a very big genius, because the money is ring-fenced. You have to pay it, upende usipende, whether you like it or not, you must pay that money. But we must find a way of building synergies with county governments, Mr. Speaker. The synergy cannot be that the county provides the land and then the national government builds the house, and then now you have problems on who owns those houses. Let us give counties a share, proceeds from the housing levy fund, so that they can also be able to make their own decisions on where they feel they should do housing. If we did so, Mr. Speaker, we'll be bridging the gap between 387 and 450 billion. Markets. And Mr. Speaker, on this, we must call out the governors. When the president goes to regions, he comes to launch markets. And when governors climb on top of that car to speak, they're asking for markets. Build for us a market here, a market there. The question is, the 387 billion that we are sending to them, why can't they use that to do markets, so that we allow the national government to do bigger things that can stimulate economic activity in those regions? Mr. Speaker, if the money for markets was sent to county governments, we would be bridging the gap to 450 billion. We would not be having this conversation or this contention of discussing a formula that is only going to apply to 4% of the funds, because that is the situation now. 96% of 405 billion has been held harmless. This formula, which is likely to split this house, likely to split the nation, will be on 4%. We must increase the base. Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, is a devolved function. The only thing that remains at the center is policy. Senator Murango was a very able chair of the Agriculture Committee. We know that there are budgets in Nairobi that should be pushed down. And I'm very happy that those who are presiding over the Agriculture Ministry nowadays have seen the light, like, is it Saul who became Paul? That even though they brought fertilizer here for us to sniff and to touch, and I remember Senator Murango was sniffing the fertilizer, it is now that they have realized that what they were sniffing were proceeds from a donkey and mixed with sand and other things. Let us send that money to counties. We'll be bridging the gap between 387 and 450 billion. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, if we are to carry out a comprehensive review of this formula, I would suggest a few things. We need to bring in a fiscal responsibility measure. Mr. Speaker, there is too much fiscal irresponsibility, and there is no way to punish it. And for our governors, the only punishment they understand is either give them money or take away money from them. In the first two formula, the very first one, we had a 2%. In the second one, we had, again, a 2%. Mr. Speaker, how I wish we could have considered a fiscal responsibility index. Mr. Speaker, there are counties that, from where I sit as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, there are few counties that have done fairly well. If you look at their wage bill, they are below the 30% or the 35% that is required by law. If you look at their development, they are above the 30% required. If you look at the operations, and Mr. Speaker, it is not all doom and gloom when it comes to devolution. Out of the 47 counties, I believe we could highlight 10 counties that are fiscally responsible. But at the bottom of the pile, there is serious irresponsibility. Senator Sifuna has just narrated some of the scenarios we have come across. And I've seen there's a schedule here circulating of counties that we are calling small by revenue. Isiolo is not a small county, Mr. Speaker, sir. Isiolo is supposed to be the capital of Kenya. It was designated as such under Vision 2030. Isiolo is at the center of Kenya, and that was where the center of gravity of this nation ought to be. Let us not call it small because of this allocation. And this allocation, if you are to add the on-source revenue, ideally Isiolo should have a lot of economic activities. Let us put pressure on the state to live to the aspirations of Vision 2030 and bring services, bring facilities, bring activities to Isiolo. It will no longer be called a small county. But when you tell me that you want Isiolo to get 6 billion shillings, I will also challenge the proponents of that argument to advise me on how to hold accountable the leadership of Isiolo County. And that could have been achieved through a fiscal responsibility index. That if they are doing the bad things that they are doing in terms of employment of advisors, employment of chief officers, you find that a county has got 6 CEC members, 10 members of county assembly, but there are 36 advisors, and there are 36 chief officers. So it means that under every ministry, there are about 5 or 6 accounting officers. Mr. Speaker, that is even Nairobi, with more complex functions, does not have that kind of creep when it comes to advisors and chief officers. So if I had a 2% or 3%, where I'm saying this one will be shared by the 10 counties that are doing a good job, and then those who are pulling at the bottom will get nothing out of it, Mr. Speaker, I would have supported this formula more robustly. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves about the blue economy. We have just had Madaraka Day in Homa Bay, and the theme was the blue economy. I am not sure, Chair Roba, whether when we take land at 8%, we are also looking at the concerns of people with vast water bodies. And this is not just a Homa Bay, Kisumu, Siaya, Migori, Busia thing. It also affects Turkana. It also affects Marsabit. And it affects Mombasa, it affects Kwale, Lamu, and Kilifi. Because, Mr. Speaker, the residents of Mfangano Island on Lake Victoria, where I come from, Mfangano is quite a big island, but the gap between Mfangano and the mainland is thousands and thousands of acres or hundreds of kilometers. Yet, they demand service. They want hospitals, they want markets, they want roads. Do we have a component here that can accommodate the blue economy? Mr. Speaker, thirdly, is that we should stop this glorification of poverty. And I've seen one of the respondents in the report of the Finance Committee, is that if poverty has a weight of 14%, no, it's 12%. It is CRA that proposed 14%. The committee has proposed 12% on poverty. Are we incentivizing poverty? What if Governor Roba, while he was governor, has improved the lives of his people, and his poverty index has moved from X to Y? In other words, his people are less poor. Why should he get less money? Should he be incentivized for pulling more people out of poverty? I don't know how we'll ever get to put that as a criteria. But otherwise, as it looks, we are glorifying poverty, we are rewarding poverty, so that the poorer you are, then the more money you should get. I think there needs to be an instrument for incentivization. Data accuracy, I spoke about that. We cannot be the leader in sub-Saharan Africa, and we are still complaining about the data that is held by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And Mr. Speaker, I've seen in the report that KNBS confirmed and convinced the committee that their data is verifiable and accurate. And I thought that the only data we dispute in this country is IBC numbers. But when it comes to KNBS and revenue share, people even went to court over the issue of population census. Mr. Speaker, it's a very untidy thing that to date, you've got a court order nullifying the results of population in a certain region in this country. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to say this. Recently, the President talked about removal of vetting for IDs in the border counties. This is not a northeastern problem alone. Even me, Mr. Speaker, I was forced to go for vetting when I was applying for my ID. Why? Because we neighbor Uganda. So this suspicion about northern Kenya around population, it is part of that discrimination, systemic discrimination of certain parts of this country. It is not just northern Kenya. It affects us in Homa Bay, affects us in Migori, in Busia, and the counties that border Lake Victoria. Mr. Speaker, again, can we demand for more money to go to counties? Because the Constitution requires us to base it on the most recent accounts. And the most recent accounts, going by Article 2293, should be the revenue accounts for 2023-2024. The Treasury is trying to convince us to use 2021. That is unconstitutional. Mr. Speaker, if we had 450 billion, then we will not be in this situation. Could we as a House agree, even though that some of us are in broad-base, but one key point in broad-base was support for devolution. It is 450 billion Kenya shillings. That is what we signed for. We didn't sign up for broad-base for small markets here, a small stadium there, a small road there.
You've concluded? Thank you, Senator. Murango, Senator Murango.
Asante sana Mstahiki Speaker. Ya kwanza ningetaka kuondoa dhana ya kwamba zile gatuzi ndogo zinaitwa ndogo kwa sababu ya mambo mengine. Zile gatuzi zinaitwa ndogo kwa sababu kijiografia ni ndogo. Ukiangalia vigezo ambazo zimetumika katika ugavi wa pesa ambayo inabakia, kama vile wingi wa watu, zinahesabiwa zikiwa ndogo. Ukiangalia kigezo kingine kama kile cha umaskini na ufukara, nyingine haziko. Kwa hivyo ndio maana zinaitwa ndogo, kwa sababu zinakuwa ndogo kwa mambo yote, mazuri na mabaya pia. Mstahiki Speaker, taarifa ambayo imenifikia sasa ni kwamba dola ambayo sisi tulikuwa tumepitisha katika nyumba ya Seneti ya kupatia gatuzi zetu takriban shilingi bilioni 465 ni kwamba imeangushwa katika bunge la kitaifa. Na mara nyingi mimi huwa nasema machozi ya mtengeneza jeneza hayaminiwi kwenye matanga. Wakati mwingine wanakuanga ni biashara wamekuja, lakini sio kuhuzunika na wale wamefiwa. Mstahiki Speaker, wale ambao wako katika bunge la kitaifa pia wanafaa wajue kwamba wakati mtu anawania kitu chochote, anaania kiti akijua ile fedha atapata na atafanya nayo nini. Kwa hivyo wakati tunajaribu kupata pesa zaidi kwenda katika gatuzi zetu, lakini inapofika katika bunge la kitaifa, dola ambayo imepitishwa inaangushwa, inaonyesha ya kwamba tayari adui wa ugatuzi ni akina nani. Na kwa hivyo tunarudi pale pale tulipoanzia. Mstahiki Speaker, mimi nimetoka Kirinyaga. Mimi ni senator wa Kenya kutoka gatuzi la Kirinyaga. Lakini itakuwa sijafanya haki kama sitaongea ya Kirinyaga pia nikiongea ya gatuzi zingine katika nchi ya Kenya. Mstahiki Speaker, sisi tunapopata fedha ambazo tunapata miaka ambayo imesonga, tukitoa ile fedha ambayo inafaa kulipwa mishahara na mambo kama hiyo, pesa inayombakia kufanya maendeleo inakuanga ni finyu sana, pesa kidogo sana. Na Mstahiki Speaker, unajua mwamba ngoma wakati mwingine ngozi uvuta kwake. Ukienda katika eneo ambalo liko na ukubwa 3/4 katika Kirinyaga, liko sehemu ya ambayo inakuzwa mpunga, ni kubwa mno, lakini mashamba na njia za kupitia kwenda katika yale mashamba toka uhuru nje haijawahi kuzwa, kwa sababu pesa tunazopata ni kidogo mno. Na ndio maana tulikuwa tunasema ndugu zetu ambao nikiruhusiwa gatuzi ndogo tujiita wadogo pia kama sisi ni kama ndogo wenu. Na ndio namsihi, wakati meza ya chakula cha jioni ama meza imewekwa, imetengenezwa ili watu waweze kukula kwa ile meza, na uko na ndugu mdogo ambaye afikii meza, si vibaya kumpatia tonge angalau pia akue siku moja za kuja kukaa moja katika meza na wewe mkule pamoja. Angalia Mstahiki Speaker, kama kisa Elgeyo Marakwet hapa, ambapo bajeti ya mwaka ambao wamepewa juzi waliweza tu kununua tingatinga moja la kulima barabara. Wangefanya jambo lingine lote, pesa ilikuwa kuna. Kama tungesikizwa tu kidogo na ndugu zetu, kwa sababu sisi wote ni mandugu hapa, tuweze kuinuliwa kidogo, tufikie meza kidogo, tuweze kuja kuweza zote tuwe tunapata at least tunapata lishe pamoja.
Senator Murango, ningefurahia zaidi ungesema ule mchanga ambaye afikii meza abebo aikwe juu ya meza akule kama ako juu ya meza.
Na hiyo nayo nadhani Mstahiki Speaker, nikisema hiyo itakuwa ni madharau, kwa sababu atakuwa amekanyanga juu ya meza. Tunataka tu kupewa angalau tonge tuweze pia sisi kukua na zile gatuzi ambazo wanafaidika zaidi. Kwa hivyo yetu ni maombi Mstahiki Speaker. Mstahiki Speaker, nilikuwa nasema hivyo kwa sababu na pia tunapotafuta hizi fedha kuna mambo ambayo inafanyika katika gatuzi zetu ambayo mpaka tumalize pia. Gavana tunapowapatia pesa kwenda kwa gatuzi, lazima ajue pia wako pale kwa sababu ya wale waliochagua, na kuna sheria za kufuata kwa sababu katiba lazima ifuatiliwe. Na mfungwa achagui Uingereza. Kwa hivyo wakiwa pale lazima atafuata sheria, kwa sababu mara nyingi ni kwamba tutangangana kupata zile fedha, lakini zinapofikia mangavana wanaanza kuwa wajeuri, wakiitwa katika kamati ya waji, wakiulizwa majibu maswali ya wajibu, lakini sasa hivi wanataka tuwapatie pesa. Mimi najua kuna mpango na Jama Fiche, hata zile pesa zinaokotwa katika gatuzi la Kirinyaga katika malipo ya ndani kwa ndani, kwamba nyingi zinapotea na nyingi zinaimbiwa. Na kwa hivyo ningesema ya kwamba mangavana mpaka waanjibike. Nikimalizia, ningetaka niseme ya kwamba fedha ambao tunaomba sisi katika zile kaunti ambazo si kubwa sana, kwa sababu wakati kigezo imewekwa ya kuangalia wingi wa watu, hakuna kigezo iliwekwa ya kusema msongamano wa watu katika zile kaunti ndogo. Hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba unaweza pata kaunti ambayo iko na watu wengi kwa sababu ni kubwa, lakini kuna kaunti nyingine kama Kirinyaga ambazo ziko na msongamano wa watu ni ndogo. Utapata kama kwa ekari moja wanaishi kama familia 3, 4, 5, ambao inakuja pia na shida zake za kupeana huduma katika wale watu wanaoishi mahali pale. Kwa hivyo ningeomba, na hii ni jambo ambalo tulikuwa tumeongea kama venye Senator Mugatana alikuwa amesema, kuna mambo ambayo tulikuwa tumesikizana kwamba katika ile mkutano ilikuwa asubuhi, kwamba tuangaliliwe hata kama ni kidogo, tuweze kukaribia wale wakubwa wetu ambao wako na gatuzi kubwa. Na kwa sababu mbuzi wa kuazimu ama kupewa angaliwi meno, ambao tutapata sisi tutaridhika zaidi, na ili iweza pia kunufaisha wale wananchi wetu ambao wako kule mashinani. Mstahiki Spika, embu nikimalizia ni shukuru mwenyekiti wa kamati ya fedha kwa kazi nzuri ambayo waliofanya, kwa sababu si kazi rahisi pia hata kukuja na kuleta ile formula ambayo tumeiona hapa. Ingekuwa si vizuri kukaa na kukashifu ile kazi ambayo kamati ya fedha na mwenyekiti walifanya, lakini wakati mwingine unajua kuna watu hata ufanya nini hawaridhiki. Kuna mtu hata ukiogelea atasema bado unamtifulia vumbi. Kuna watu wanatakwambia kwamba wewe ndio sababu mjango wa Rasara halina nyasi bila msingi wowote. Kwa hivyo kazi waliofanya kufikisha mahali tumefika, kuhakikisha kwamba zile gatuzi zote hakuna ambayo inapoteza pesa, ni jambo ambao anafaa pewe kongole, na asiulize kwa nini simwambie hongela, kwa sababu hongela upewa wanawake. Kwa hivyo Mstahiki Spika, ni kwamba sisi tukipewa chochote, hata kama ni chenye naona katika simulizi ambayo imeletwa hapa na takwimu ambazo naziona hapa, sisi tutakumbalia. Lakini tena niseme, andui wa ugatuzi ni bunge la kitaifa. Sasa hivi ukiangalia taarifa, wameangusha ile mswada ambao tulikuwa tumepeleka kule, na ndio nikasema kwamba machozi ya mtengeneza jeneza hayaminiwi katika matanga, anakuanga biashara. Hawa ndio hao naongelea. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika.
Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to join my colleagues. First, in thanking the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for the very rigorous work that they have done. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this report with the amendment that was introduced this morning, the amendment that introduced an affirmative action fund that ring-fenced $2 billion for the 11 counties that had the lowest figures. Mr. Speaker, I want to support because in the third formula, where I was present and I sat on the chair you are sitting in, we took about 11 sittings, very difficult sittings. But something that came out very clearly was the unity of the House. Senator Kinyua will remember that the House was united in speaking fairness. And I want to thank this committee because if you look at the observations that they have given, they have not deviated from fairness. The parameters that have been used are slightly different because in the third formula, we wanted to look at Schedule 4, the second part of Schedule 4. And we had asked for more money so that we have the devolved functions being followed by resources. When we did not succeed, this House decided to break the boundary between the two sides of the House. And they debated and came up with a formula that was implemented and made everybody happy. Mr. Speaker, I am appealing to the House that we do exactly the same. Let's think in terms of our own unity and fairness only. In this, in the fourth basis, the sharing, according to the committee, has still looked at the devolved functions, not in the parameters that we had used, but they have looked at the functions globally and have ensured that first, nobody loses, which was the principle that came out very strongly in the third basis, that nobody should go below what they had gotten. So I want to support that as we look at this formula, let us think in terms of sustaining the momentum of devolution. Mr. Speaker, this is the House that protects devolution. It would be very sad that we squabble, and we have squabbles that derail us. I think our focus should be how we can protect devolution by sustaining the growth of everybody. We know that some colleagues feel that they should have been fast-tracked a little bit, but if you look at the agreement of this morning to release the 2 billion, that was a step in the right direction. And I really still think that we should persuade all our colleagues to agree with this formula. But the reason why we need unity in this House is because the amount of money we are getting is still not the figure that we wanted. The committee's initial proposal was 465 billion. We only got 405 billion. So we need unity of purpose to look for that 60 billion. So we must reach a point when we can talk in one voice so that we get the figure that we are looking for. A divided House will not be able to do that. So at the end of this debate, we must remain united, and we must really consider the fact that all of us must move together. I want to persuade my colleagues that we accept the resolutions that came from today's Kamukunji, because we called for it for that very purpose. But Mr. Speaker, where is the actual problem in the money? Because we seem to be fighting over little money. The actual problem is the progression of funding the counties. In Bomas, the ideal situation was that in 20 years, 50% of the resources of this country should be in the devolved unit. That we expected 50% to be in counties in 20 years. Right now, Mr. Speaker, we are only in the third term. And the rate at which we are going, we will not reach 50%. So as a House, we need to be united to refocus and fight for the resources to go down. And this is possible, Mr. Speaker. It is possible because there are functions that have been devolved, but resources have not followed. Even though the committee is saying in that paragraph, in the paragraph H, that the funds have been shared in the context of the devolved functions, we still have a lot of functions that are supposedly devolved in the Constitution, but they have not been funded. I said this during the debate of the third formula, and I want to repeat it, that Kilimo House is still full. Ministry of Health is still full of staff who were supposed to have been transitioned to take care of our counties. And if that is done, if we transfer resources that are in the Ministry of Agriculture rightfully to the counties, and resources that are still in the Ministry of Health rightfully to the counties, there is hope of us reaching the 50%. in the next 10 years, if not 20 years. Mr. Speaker, that calls for unity within this House. It's very important that we stand united as we debate the division of revenue, so that we don't fight over the little that has arrived while we know that there is a lot more that should be coming. We know roads should be devolved. We know even housing should be devolved. We know, and of course, as I said, agriculture, except policymakers. The occupancy of the Ministry of Agriculture should just be one floor where the minister is, his PSS, and directors. Nothing more than that. And all other functions, all other monies should be devolved. The same thing with the Ministry of Health. If health has been devolved and we still have everybody in Nairobi, most of the money is still in Nairobi. What the counties are getting in health, we are informed, is less than 50%. And this has been raised several times by CRA to us when they're explaining that we seem to be fighting over what we have seen with our naked eyes, but there's a lot more that we are not seeing. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to really appeal to the House that we go for unity of purpose while we are debating and while we are approving. I'm glad my brother, Senator Osotsi, is here, because if we start fighting over the little, we will not be able to devolve everything. Let's devolve agriculture except for policy. Let's devolve health except for policy, the way the Constitution says. And look for new monies. Mr. Speaker, I'm looking for new monies that will follow the functions that have been devolved by the Constitution. Because if we had 465, the debate would not be here, because everybody would have jumped in billions. But now we have restricted ourselves to monies that the minimal that we have been given, the minimum increment. We still need to have this conversation with the National Assembly at some point, because it's like they have never understood what devolution is all about. No wonder we are still fighting over who supports and who doesn't support CDF, NGCDF. And we are saying the national government also has a right to devolve its money and its resources to the lowest unit. But while they are doing that, that is not money that belongs to the devolved unit. We want the money that belongs to the devolved unit according to the Constitution, so that we can be able to develop the agendas that were devolved. Madam Speaker, I was not going to say a lot, because most of my colleagues have said most of the things that are here. But I really want to emphasize that there is need for unity in this House. Let's negotiate and let's finish. The way we did with the third formula, let us negotiate and let's all move together and ensure that we are actually looking for money that has not been touched since devolution came, so that we move forward with devolution. Devolution is one thing that Kenyans are not going to take any risk in diminishing. So since this is the only avenue for Kenyans to develop, we must all be together. So my cry is, let's move together. Let's not be divided by the division of revenue. Let's look for the monies that have not been given to us. Let's look for the devolved functions that have not been followed by money. And let's demand for that money with one voice. And that is going to move us far. Thank you, Madam Speaker. With those remarks, I support with the amendments introduced this morning in the Kamukunji. Thank you.
Senator Kinyua.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza mwanzo nataka kushukuru kamati ya fedha kwa kazi nzuri waliofanya Bwana Speaker, Bi Speaker, kwa kuleta jinsi ya ugavi wa hela. Lakini Bi Speaker, nataka ikumbukwe wazi kama vile senator wa kutoka Singishu Professor Kamala alivyosema ya kwamba Seneti ambayo iliyopita, kauli mbiu ilikuwa ya kwamba hakuna kaunti ambayo ingepoteza hela. Na huo ndio msimamo, kwa sababu ukisoma katika katiba yetu ya Kenya inasema kazi ya seneta ni kulinda na kuitetea gatuzi zetu. Na hiyo ndio majukumu. Mandago si kutetea tu au Singishu peke yake, lakini ana jukumu kutetea kaunti zote za Jamhuri ya Kenya, kwa sababu yeye ni seneta wa Kenya. Speaker, nikiwa ninasema hivyo, kwa hivyo tunapoangalia vile ambavyo hela, nakumbuka seneti ile ingine tuliketi hapa zaidi ya mara 10, tulikuwa na vikao zaidi ya 10. Hatukukubaliana, lakini dakika ya mwisho tulikubaliana. Na ukiangalia ugavi ama ile formula iliyotumiwa kugawa hela, muhura wa 3 wa ugavi wa hela, ndio hiyo inatumika wakati huu. Kwa sababu mengi yalisemwa. Wakati ule tulikaa zaidi ya mara 10, watu walijadiliana. Mambo mengi yalifanywa, kamati ziliketi, mpaka watengenezwa kamati ambayo ilikuwa ikiongozwa na Sakaja na wakati huu spika wa bunge la kitaifa ambaye ni Moses Wetangula. Tukaongea mengi na tukakubaliana. Kwa hivyo ninasema hivi kwa sababu Mngatana alipokuwa akiongea alisema ya kwamba waliokuja nyuma wamekuja wakaleta kuchanganya yale mambo yalikuwa yameongewa hapo asubuhi. La hasha, si kuchanganya, ni kuleta mwamko mpya, ni kuleta fikra mpya, ni kuleta nguvu mpya. Speaker, kwa sababu wakati watu wanafanya majadiliano, mtu na mzungu anasema ni mjinga tu peke yake asiyebadilisha mawazo. Kwa hivyo wale wengine wameleta mawazo mapya, mawazo mageni, hata wao wanapaswa kusikizwa. Na mimi nikiangalia Speaker, kwanza kabisa ijulikane wazi kwamba hela zinapaswa kufuata majukumu. Kwa sababu majukumu mengi yamepelekwa katika gatuzi zetu, lakini hela zinabaki katika serikali kuu, bwana Speaker. Ikiwa hatutalivalia njuga njabo hili la hela lifuate majukumu, tutakuwa tukipigania mkoba mdogo wa hela sisi kama gatuzi, lakini mkoba mkubwa uko na serikali kuu. Sisi tunapigana hapa na tuwezi kufuatilia mahali hela ziko, kwa sababu majukumu mengi ambayo yamepelekwa katika gatuzi zetu, pesa zake hazijapelekwa katika gatuzi. Mfano, mwenyekiti wa afya yuko pamoja na mimi hapa. Hela nyingi za afya ziko katika serikali kuu, ilhali katika serikali kuu imebakishwa policy na hospitali za kitaifa ni karibu 5, Speaker. Hospitali ya Moi Teaching Referral, hospitali ya Kenyatta, hospitali ya Spinal Injury, hospitali ya Mathare. Hizo ndio hospitali ambazo ziko katika serikali ya kitaifa, ilhali 70% ya hela inabaki katika serikali ya kitaifa. Na ni vizuri julikane, mfano hata ukiangalia mambo ya barabara, gatuzi zetu, barabara ukiangalia katika katiba inasema barabara zimegawanywa mara 2, barabara za gatuzi na barabara za kitaifa. Lakini unapata kuna halmashauri na vile vile taasisi zingine kama Kera na Kura zimewekwa, bwana Speaker, ilhali hizo pesa zingepelekwa moja kwa moja katika gatuzi zetu, kwa sababu kuna barabara aina 2 peke yake. Kenha ibaki ikishughulikia barabara za kitaifa, ilhali Kera na Kura ipelekwe moja kwa moja katika gatuzi zetu, kwa sababu wao wanashughulika kutengeneza barabara zilizo katika gatuzi zetu. Kwa hivyo bwana Speaker, tunapoongea kuhusu hela, ni vizuri tuajibike vizuri na kusema ya kwamba gatuzi zetu zinapaswa kuwa zikiangaliwa. Ukiangalia kama Laikipia, hela zile ambazo tunapewa Laikipia na majukumu ambayo sisi tunatakikana kufanya Laikipia, hizi hela ni kidogo sana, hazitoshi. Na kwa sababu leo asubuhi tulikuwa na huu mdahalo wa kusema ya kwamba tutawezaje kuongeza hela ambazo zinaenda katika zile kaunti ni ndogo, kukawekwa shilingi bilioni 2 kama hatua ya kuleta pesa za udhibitisho. Bilioni 2, Speaker, ni nzuri kwa sababu walionekana wanania, lakini bilioni 2 hazitoshi. Pendekezo langu ni ya kwamba tuongeze ziwe bilioni 5, ndiposa hizi kaunti ambazo ni ndogo, hizi 11 zote zipate kadri ya bilioni 6 kila moja. Na hiyo itaonekana walikuwa na nia nzuri wale walikuwa wakifanya haya. Kamati ilikuwa na nia nzuri kwa sababu tayari imeweka bilioni 2. Na ikiwa iliweka 2, tunawaambia wasonge tu kidogo ifikishe bilioni 5 ndio hizi kaunti zingine zidifike. Kwa sababu hata sisi hizi kaunti ndogo zina majukumu na majukumu ni mengi. Ukitembea Laikipia, hospitali zetu hazina dawa. Ukienda pale barabara hakuna. Shida ni nyingi pale Laikipia, ilhali pesa ukiangalia kaunti ya Laikipia ni kubwa zaidi, na majukumu ambayo governor anapaswa kutekeleza pale, na hizi hela inaonekana haiwezi ikatosha. Na ndiposa unaona kila mtu pale katika gatuzi anasema ya kwamba tunamgoja rais aje afanye, aje atengeneze. Wanatutuma, ukienda ukimwona rais aje afanye, ilhali governor yuko pale kwa sababu hela nyingi zimebaki katika serikali kuu. Na Speaker, ni jukumu yetu kama seneti kusema ya kwamba hela zinapaswa kufuata majukumu. Ikiwa majukumu yapelekwa pale gatuzi, kwa magatuzi, mfano ni ukulima uko katika kwa magatuzi, ukienda kama mfano mambo ya masoko yako katika gatuzi yetu, lakini bado unaona hayo majukumu yanatekelezwa na serikali ya kitaifa. Hayo ni mambo tunapaswa kuwa tukiangalia hapa. Kwa hivyo mimi langu ni kusema ya kwamba kile ambacho ningependekeza, kwa sababu tunapojadili mswada, ni kusema ni marekebisho yapi ungetaka yatekelezwe. Rekebisho ni moja tu ningetaka lirekebishwe, Speaker, na hilo pendekezo ni la kwamba badala ya shilingi bilioni 2 ambayo inatumika kama ya udhibitisho ndio hizi kaunti ambazo ziko chini ziweze kupanda, ningelipendekeza kuongezwe bilioni 5, na hii itawezekana. Na Speaker, na tusiseme tu hiyo, tuweze kueleza kinaga ubaga, kwa sababu wakati tunasema ni bilioni 5 tungetaka iongezwe, ni wakati pesa ambazo ugavi wa hela ni shilingi bilioni 405. Lakini tunapaswa kusukuma zaidi, kwa sababu katika seneti hii sisi tulipitisha tunataka bilioni 465, na hiyo inawezekana tukifanya pamoja, kwa sababu seneti ile nyingine tulitembea pamoja na tukawa na ile na kauli mbiu ya kusema hakuna kaunti ambayo inapaswa kupoteza hela. Na tulipofanya hivyo, nataka kuongea na Mngatana, bi mwenyekiti, tulipofanya hiyo, seneti hii iliweza kuongeza ugavi wa hela, tukaongeza na bilioni 50. Hata sasa tukiwa na nia, najua tuna uwezo, tukitembea pamoja, kwa sababu umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu. Na waomba maseneta wenzangu, na waomba tusiseme kuhusu bilioni 405, sisi tulenge bilioni 465, kwa sababu hiyo ndio majukumu yetu, kutetea gatuzi, na hiyo ndio jukumu yetu kubwa katika seneti hii. Siku ya leo mswada huu tunaoongea, huu ndio mswada ambao ni mwafaka, huu ndio mswada ambao umetuleta katika seneti hii. Yale mambo mengine yote yakuwe ni kando, kwa sababu maneno yote tunayoongea kuhusu county, vile itakavyofanyika, mambo yatakavyotekelezwa, yatatekelezwa kutokana na hela ambazo siku ya leo tunazo zitetea hapa. Na hakuna mambo mengine tunayopaswa kufanya, kwa sababu leo tuongee kuhusu hizi hela, na tukipata zile hela ambazo tunazitaka ziende katika gatuzi, mambo ya kuwa na ufisadi, mambo ya kufuja kwa hela, hiyo ni mambo mengine yatakayofuatiliwa na kamati ambayo iko hapa, ninawajibika vilivyo. Lakini sisi tutetee pesa ziende katika kaunti, kwa sababu tuwezi tukasema kwa sababu ya ufujaji wa hela, mambo ya ufisadi katika gatuzi yetu hatutatetea pesa, kwa sababu si gatuzi zote, Speaker, ambazo wanafuja pesa. Kuna gatuzi ambazo wanafanya kazi vizuri, ambao ni waeredi, ambao ni watu ambao ni study kwa kazi ambao walichaguliwa kufanya. Kwa hivyo, Speaker, nataka kukomea hapo, na ni warai wenzangu maseneta, hasa seneta wa Tana River, na mrai na muomba ukubali pamoja na ndugu yangu wa kutoka Senator Mandago, niwaombe tafadhali mkubali hapa katika hii jedwali mahali ya udhibitisho, ndio tuweze kusawazisha kaunti hizi, tuweze kupatiwa bilioni 5. Angalau Mungatana, ukitembea Laikipia unapata barabara, ukitembelea katika zahanati zetu unapata dawa. Sitaki kumwambia Mandago kwa sababu Mandago ni mwenzetu na ni jirani wetu, kwa hivyo yeye siwezi nikamhubiria, tayari ameokoka. Asanti Bi Speaker kunipa fursa hii, na naunga mkono ikiwa marekebisho haya ya bilioni 5 katika jedwali hii yata.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important report that has been tabled by the Committee of Finance, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, this goes to give resources to our counties. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me say that I agree with my colleagues who have advanced the argument that the so-called small counties, Madam Speaker, be allocated a minimum of 6 billion. I don't think it is too much to ask. And I say that not because I'm against any county from getting any allocation, but I say that as part of Kenyans who have traversed this country and understand the challenges that those the so-called small counties undergo, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to say the following in support of additional allocation of funds to the small counties. Madam Speaker, if you look at the cost of development for similar works, for example, roads, Madam Speaker, the cost of doing a road in a county like Elgeyo Marakwet, Madam Speaker, 1 kilometer of road to cut through the hills will cost the county government, and we are just talking of rural access roads. We are not talking about paved roads. It will cost not less than 5 million to do a kilometer of Maram Road in Elgeyo Marakwet, Madam Speaker. In Uasin Gishu, Madam Speaker, it will cost 1.5 million. Why? The terrain in Elgeyo Marakwet, Madam Speaker, is so hilly, it is hills and valleys. To construct a kilometer of road in Elgeyo Marakwet might even take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. To construct a kilometer of road in Uasin Gishu, Madam Speaker, will take less than 3 hours. We must appreciate that these counties have very unique challenges. Madam Speaker, if you go to a county like Lamu, where for you to access Lamu from Nairobi, you also need to cross the ocean, Madam Speaker. The people of Lamu are not less privileged. They must get services, roads, transport network to access the rest of Kenya like all other Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you go to a county like Tharaka Nithi, which is almost a good percent of Tharaka Nithi is Asal, Madam Speaker, and was marginalized from independence, Madam Speaker. If we want to bring development across the country in a fairly equitable manner, Madam Speaker, we as a House should be in the forefront of making sure that the so-called small counties get additional allocation. Whether it is going to be affirmative action, whatever formula it is going to be applied, let's have those counties getting a minimum of 6 billion, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you look at health facilities, Elgeyo Marakwet County, Lamu County, Vihiga County, Tharaka Nithi, and the others, Madam Speaker, that we call small counties, they almost have similar number of health facilities as the rest of the counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, every health facility, regardless of the number of people who patronize,
require the same number of human resource. If you upgrade a facility to level 3, Madam Speaker, and the requirement is that for a level 3, you must have 10 nurses, 5 clinical officers, 2 laboratory attendants. Madam Speaker, it doesn't matter whether that health facility is in Elgeyo Marakwet, it is in Lamu, Tana River, Uasin Gishu, or Nairobi. If we want to provide quality, affordable, and accessible healthcare, you must provide that number of human resources required. And therefore, these counties that we call small, Madam Speaker, will suffer an irreparable damage, especially now that the country, the government is rolling out universal health coverage in trying to make sure that every Kenyan, regardless of their geographical location, is able to access quality and affordable health care. These counties, Madam Speaker, if they are not supported, they will have a huge problem in coping with the rollout. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to persuade my colleagues in all the other counties to agree to relooking into the formula with a view of making sure that the least amount of resources that goes to any county is 6 billion Kenya shillings. Having said that, Madam Speaker, we would also want to say that there is now need to use existing government entities to check on the funds that have been given under affirmative action, Madam Speaker, and assess the impact so that it informs our decision in the next development of the formula. Madam Speaker, if you look at the parameters like poverty index, Madam Speaker, a couple of counties have got huge allocations by virtue of that parameter, Madam Speaker. It is time we ask ourselves, of the money that was sent to these specific counties under the poverty index, Madam Speaker, has there been any improvement in terms of reduction of the poverty levels in those counties, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, it is time that we also have, in order to boost the oversight of Senate and all other entities involved in the accountability measures, Madam Speaker, including our county assemblies, that we have an integrated financial management system that allows you as a senator of the county and you as a member of the county assembly, Madam Speaker, even on a read-only basis, to look at the financial position of your county, to be able to see what has been requisitioned, what has been approved, and what has been paid out, Madam Speaker. As we speak today, Madam Speaker, we are operating silos of financial management systems that don't talk to one another, and it makes the work of oversight and accountability a little bit difficult. In this age of technology, Madam Speaker, it is possible to integrate IFMIS together with the system the Controller of Budget is using and the CBK payment platform, Madam Speaker, and allow for real-time availability of data and the use of finances. And Madam Speaker, this will not only apply to county governments, Madam Speaker, it should also be applied to the national government entities, Madam Speaker, so that even members of parliament, National Assembly, should be able to oversight state departments on real-time basis, Madam Speaker, and we avoid the wastage that occurs, and we only deal with the matter when the money has already gone, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, that will ensure that the resources that we as a Senate keep fighting for to go to our counties, Madam Speaker, is properly utilized. Madam Speaker, on the issues of accountability, and in making sure that we are pro-oversight, Madam Speaker, I want to thank this Senate for first accepting that our county assemblies must become autonomous. And the position the Senate has taken is so that county assemblies will be able to perform their work. Madam Speaker, today as we speak, there is very little oversight in terms of what the MCAs are doing, Madam Speaker, in the counties. Madam Speaker, I am a little bit disturbed that when you look at the financial prudence now in the counties, it looks like the accountability standards have been lowered, Madam Speaker. I say that, Madam Speaker, because in my own county, Madam Speaker, I'm surprised that the executive in my county can have up to 400 million shillings in unaccounted interest, Madam Speaker. And I don't understand what kind of development is being done using interest. Interest collection, Madam Speaker, is not any form of procurement. It is not any recommended procurement procedure, Madam Speaker. If you find a county with over 400 million, in excess of 100 million unaccounted interest, Madam Speaker, you have reasons to worry. And as particularly when you don't even hear anything from the county assemblies, Madam Speaker. And we must strengthen county assemblies, Madam Speaker, for them to be able to conduct oversight. And one way to strengthen county assemblies, Madam Speaker, is to increase the salaries of the members of county assembly. Salaries and Remuneration Commission, in their duty, in my view, I think committed an error of omission by increasing the salaries of the county executive committee members, Madam Speaker, the county waziris, to close to 400,000 a month. And we expect a member of county assembly to earn 132,000 and to oversight the functions in the county, while also being the first point of call of every citizen of this country whenever they have a problem. Madam Speaker, remember, members of parliament are in Nairobi, senators are in Nairobi, governors, unfortunately, in this time, more than 50% of the governors operate from Nairobi, so they can also not be found in their counties. So who is left at the county level to deal with the general population? It is a member of county assembly. Madam Speaker, we must live life realistically, and we must be practical. Have had people make arguments that, fundraisings are not part of your job description. If an expectant mother comes to your house as a member of county assembly and needs 1,000 shillings to go to hospital to deliver, will you say that is not part of your duty? Or you'll have to find a way of giving that mother 1,000 shillings to be able to go to the facility? That is what our members of county assembly go through every day. So if we want to strengthen accountability in counties so that when we send resources, the primary level of oversight is properly conducted, then we must empower the county assemblies. I must thank this Senate for giving them the autonomy. We must also give them now the financial capacity to be able to do that, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I know the courts have pronounced themselves in the matters of qualification. As is now in this country, Madam Speaker, it is only the governors who are required to hold a degree. The rest of the position, as long as you are a Kenyan citizen with a birth certificate, it is sufficient for you to become a leader. And we don't dispute that you don't have to have gone to have degrees to be a leader, Madam Speaker. But I think, Madam Speaker, we need to put some bare minimums in some functions, Madam Speaker. For example, for you to be the chair of finance and budget in the county assembly, Madam Speaker, I think there is need for us to put some qualification there, because it requires capacity, Madam Speaker, to even internalize and check the figures that are being given by the executive, to be able even to interrogate the audit reports from the Auditor General, Madam Speaker. There is need for some specific qualification, for some specific jobs, Madam Speaker, so that we can improve on our accountability, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally, let me say that there are still a lot of resources that have been left in some state departments who still continue to perform devolved functions, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as a House, we must continue to rein on these state departments and make sure that these functions are fully devolved and that resources follow function, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as I speak, I have two state departments in my mind: the State Department of Health and the State Department of Agriculture, Madam Speaker. If you look at those two functions, Madam Speaker, they are about 95% devolved. In health, Madam Speaker, county governments, the 47 county governments are dealing with close to 14,000 health facilities. The national government through the State Department of Health, Madam Speaker, are dealing with less than 50. If you look at the functions that are being run by the ministry like malaria control, Madam Speaker, the distribution of nets, Madam Speaker, does not require anybody to go to school. In fact, that's a function that should be done by our community health promoters. Now that we have a number of them across our counties, and they are even more distributed than the health workers, Madam Speaker. They are in a better position to perform the preventive activities of health, Madam Speaker. But you will still find they are also responsible for distribution of nets in the ministry. The function of nets is still in the ministry. Madam Speaker, functions like teaching and sensitizing the general population on washing hands is still in the ministry. The ministry wants to still travel across the country to go and sensitize people now to wash their hands. Oral health, Madam Speaker, money is being spent at the State Department of Health to teach people how to brush their teeth, something we used to be taught by our teachers and a few public health officers across those times, Madam Speaker. Why is this money still in the Ministry of Health? We need that money to go to county governments, and we need to strengthen accountability in county governments. Madam Speaker, the lazy excuse that have been used all the time of saying, oh, there's corruption on counties, corruption has been devolved. I have this to say. If we are to do consolidated values of corruption in national government and in counties, what we see in counties is child play. Madam Speaker, the corruption that happens at the national level, funds are being moved out of this country. If there is corruption in counties, Madam Speaker, the funds revolve around the county. If you are to choose the lesser devil, then the money that revolves around the county might even be easy for EACC to trace and all the other agencies that are involved. Madam Speaker, you know what happens when money has been sent to some countries, and when you want to ask, you are told that those fellows have diplomatic immunity. You cannot talk to them. Therefore, let's send the resources to follow their function. Let the agencies responsible for accountability do their job. Let the Auditor General's office be strengthened in terms of human resource. It is also another weak link. As much as the Auditor General wants to do a good job, Madam Speaker, but with the little budget they are given and the number of staff they have, they cannot be able to handle 47 county governments, 300 parastatals, and so many other national government state agencies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there is need to enhance the capacity at the Office of the Auditor General. And we want to ask National Assembly to enhance the allocation to the Auditor General. Madam Speaker, I disagree with the Auditor General's engagement of private auditors to audit government agencies, including counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the inconsistency that happens when you hire an audit firm today to audit was in Gishu County. In the next financial year, you will have another audit firm. It will be difficult to track the improvements that are desired from audit. Madam Speaker, audits are meant to improve. They are supposed to enhance efficiency. The reports are supposed to be used as management reports to improve government processes and procedures. I would ask that the National Assembly adds funds to the Auditor General to recruit more auditors so that government auditors from the Office of the Auditor General should be auditing all government agencies, both at national and county government level, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with that, I want to say that I support this report with the amendments that the so-called small counties, that every county must get the least minimum of 6 billion Kenya shillings, Madam Speaker, so that we can have equitable development and we can make sure that this country is moving as one nation. The reason those counties are behind, Madam Speaker, is not of their own making. It is the marginalization that happened over the years. The purpose of devolution was to correct that marginalization so that, Madam Speaker, any Kenyan should now be able to work in every part of the country. We know these are counties, Madam Speaker, where you could post health workers and they would either fail to report or report, and their first letter in their files is to seek a transfer out of that station, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, devolution has stabilized the human resources in health, and also, Madam Speaker, even in the early childhood centers, we are seeing increased access to basic education. And therefore, I want to support this with the amendment that the least county gets 6 billion Kenya shillings, Madam Speaker.
Senator Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me also an opportunity to add my voice to this very important function that is one of the main roles of the senators. Madam Speaker, a lot has been said about the allocation of revenue. There has been a lot of debate about the most appropriate formula that will ensure that all counties get resources as they need to. Madam Speaker, there has been a major mistake, or there was a major mistake that we did in the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. We created so many counties, and therefore, Madam Speaker, duplicated very many roles. Indeed, Madam Speaker, we would spin the wheel of time back. How I wish that we could have created like 12 counties or 15 counties so that we do not have to duplicate so many roles, and so that we do not have to create units that mostly are defined along ethnical lines. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I've looked at the formula as proposed, and I've looked at the report as proposed by the Finance Committee, and indeed they've done a good job. However, there is one question that has been lingering in my mind, and that is, why don't we get a variable that will ensure that we give incentives to those counties that practice financial prudency, that we try to encourage innovativeness, that we get a variable that will encourage the counties that are encouraging a lot of startups, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, get a variable that will encourage counties to ensure that the young generation, the Gen Zs of this nation, get involved in creation of cottage industries. Having said that, Madam Speaker, we are where we are, and we must face it the way it is. I do indeed support the Finance Committee report with various amendments. One, it is unfortunate, Madam Speaker, and this I say, and being a patriotic Kenyan, we've continued to use poverty index for the last 10 years of devolution. But how I wish that we could have paused to ask ourselves, what has been the effect of this equalization or this affirmative percentage that we've allocated to counties that we think are disadvantaged? Madam Speaker, I think using and modern tracking formulas, we could have tried to track down what this 20%, 14% previously, now 12%, the impact it has had on counties. Having visited many marginalized counties, Madam Speaker, and being involved in construction industry, Madam Speaker, I do realize, yes, Madam Speaker, that 80% of the landmass of Kenya does not participate in the GDP of this country. And this is a very unfortunate affair. But the problem, Madam Speaker, is not that we only devolve the units and the functions, but most of the crucial functions, Madam Speaker, were left in the central government. When I was the chair of the Energy Committee, Madam Speaker, we did pay a visit to counties of Wajir, counties of Madera, and we were quite dismayed by the fact that they ran their power generation using diesel generators. alone the distances that the truckers have to travel to deliver the heavy oil to land the diesels makes it almost unaffordable for anybody to use that as a means of production. Madam Speaker, that is why we have to rethink the way we distribute our resources. That is why we have to rethink the way we connect our people to the main grid. And that's why we have to rethink the strategic plan that we must embrace as a country to ensure that even the 80% of the landmass of this country contributes to the GDP and therefore leading to increased revenue collection. But having said that, Madam Speaker, let me also quickly note that we need also to look at innovative way of tracking whatever we disburse to the counties, and more so, we have to leverage modern technology, that is IE technology, with the auditing functions, and more so, Madam Speaker, because we know that most county governments, and especially those who get heavy amounts, and I'm talking about counties like Nairobi, counties like Kiambu, counties like Turkana, they have equally very huge pending bills, Madam Speaker. This would be my prayer to my colleagues, and this would be my prayer to the sitting governors and those who are aspirating to become governors. We must be alive to the fact that most of the counties do give their contracts and service provision from small-scale traders. And, Madam Speaker, when they hold their money onto their money in form of pending bills for 2 or 3 years, Madam Speaker, they end up crippling these business people. Madam Speaker, we know that voiding has been a common practice among many county governments, where they raise a requisite and they release the requisition from the Treasury, but once the money hits the account, Madam Speaker, they do not pay the intended beneficiary, but they end up paying the beneficiaries who they want. The reason, Madam Speaker, being simply because all the governors who vacate office and leave huge pending bills, their successors do not honor those pending bills. We must indeed, as senators also, as we fight for the county governments to get more allocation, we must also be quite firm that, as is in the law, Madam Speaker, the first charge should and must be the pending bills. Madam Speaker, I'm a proud resident of Nyeri County and proud senator of Nyeri County that we have at least very minimal pending bills. Madam Speaker, it is very disheartening when you read about counties like Nairobi that owes suppliers billions of shillings, Madam Speaker. It is indeed quite unfortunate that most of the counties that keep on changing governors, the ones who are in the third governor, counties like Kiambu, they have equally very huge pending bills. As we fight to get more resources directly to the counties, it is my prayer that we must also strengthen the oversight, and not only the oversight, but also the execution of the first charge being pending bills. Madam Speaker, we know that we are living at a time when climate change has become a global challenge. How I wish that the formula try to bring in a variable that will ensure that those counties that invest heavily in matters towards a mitigation of climate change also get incentives. Madam Speaker, it is time that now we start looking at things from a globalistic approach. It is time that we start being future-centric. It is time that we as leaders become responsible, and I know that we have a moral obligation to ensure that we leave a continent, we leave a country, we leave counties that will be safe for the future generations. This, Madam Speaker, cannot happen unless we are quite involved in ensuring that we also invest. We must, Madam Speaker, be quite intentional in making sure that we put in variables that will create incentives so that we can get a lot of us people, we can get a lot of our citizens participating in matters that will go a long way towards mitigation of climate change. How I wish that the Committee of Finance came up with a variable that will ensure those counties that have huge forests, because they'll be disadvantaged because they do not have the density of the population will be will be undermined or will be disadvantaged by the forest coverage. And I'm talking about a county like Nyeri that has 40% forest cover, and therefore we may not have people living in those forests. But we should, and I think that is very, very important, we should also be rewarded for being people, the owners of these a very, very important component that is not only important to the country, but also in the global stage. Madam Speaker, we also know that the strategic planning that has been made by many counties is not married to the auditor report that is given. Madam Speaker, leveraging that with the modern technology, it would be very easy to ensure that we have a follow-up so that when we have a government like it was Kibaki government talking about Vision 2030, Uhuru government talking about the Big Four agenda, we have a consistent way of tracking what is it that we are supposed to be achieving within what time. This, Madam Speaker, will ensure that we do not lose a lot of money. Like I do recall, Madam Speaker, when we went to Turkana, we went to visit the fishing landing port in Lake Turkana. And we were quite dismayed, Madam Speaker, despite the investment being very, very heavy in terms of money put in, despite the investment being quite ambitious, despite being an investment that could have been life-changing, Madam Speaker, it has been neglected because the successive county governments could not maybe be able to see the vision that was driven by their predecessor. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we must get a way of ensuring that each successful governor takes over, pays the pending bills, but most importantly also follows the footpath, the national footpath, as well as the national and the county footpath, so that we can have continuity. Madam Speaker, indeed, the matter of resource allocation, we know that we have a very huge potential, both at national and county government. But we must also create mechanisms within which we can be able to fight corruption. One, we can make the officers accountable to, and most important, Madam Speaker, to make sure that we do train our people, we do capacity build our people in a manner that they'll be able to comprehend. And when I talk about capacity build, Madam Speaker, I'm not only talking about the elected leaders, but I'm talking about the general public. Civic education, Madam Speaker, as it was before we introduced public participation. It is something that we need to ask ourselves as a country, should we go back there? Or should we introduce it in our curriculum from the early childhood education so that it can get ingrained in our children, so that it becomes a part of our culture? Madam Speaker, we know that this country has a very huge potential. We know that the richness and the diversity of every county, Madam Speaker, if well managed, it can be a major contributor to the economic growth of this country. However, Madam Speaker, most of the times we find ourselves getting engrossed in petty politics. We forget that it is our diversity that makes this country as beautiful as it is, that makes it very rich. We forget that our cultural difference could be the richness that we need to ensure that we become a stronger community. As we move forward, Madam Speaker, and as we debate the sharing of the revenue among the counties, Madam Speaker, let it also not be lost to us that development in any part of this country is development across the country. And that is why, Madam Speaker, I would want also to join hands with my colleagues and say no county should get less than 6 billion. The reason being, Madam Speaker, if we look at the economic growth, if we look at the inflation, if we look at the taxes that are being levied, if we look at housing levy, if we look at all those components, Madam Speaker, if we look at also the progression of the human resource within the county, we know that this means additional cost to the counties, and therefore it would be prudent for us to ensure that the growth that we have in terms of the human resource, the increment in the salary, recurrent expenditure, as well as, Madam Speaker, the increment in the taxes regime and the inflation, change in inflation is also incorporated. If you are to factor in that, Madam Speaker, then I think it would be fair. We, as senators, should say the county government should get an allocation of at least 460 billion. This will ensure that we are able to take care of the recurrent expenditure, take care of development expenditure, as well as also move the counties forward. But as I say that, Madam Speaker, I would want to underpin the importance of us strengthening the oversight law. I would want to underpin the importance of us embracing modern technology, including the artificial intelligence, to ensure that we track how the money is being used, the development, and also assessing the social economic impact of the resources that have been allocated to the counties, so that we do not find ourselves in a situation where we ask, what is there to show after 10 years of devolution? Madam Speaker, I think that this country is now on the right path. But we cannot get there, Madam Speaker, unless we become quite intentional of unbundling all the functions that are devolved and ensuring that those functions are followed by resources up to the county level. But, Madam Speaker, then the question arises, do all the county levels, governments have the capacity? It does not matter, Madam Speaker, but we need also to encourage formation of regional blocks where counties can share some of the resources like field extension officers, agricultural extension officers, where the counties are sharing the same kind of crop. This, Madam Speaker, will ensure that we can be able to encourage counties to make sure that they invest in what they can do best, where they get and trading with other counties that are producing something different that the one county does not produce. I'll give an example, Madam Speaker. Nyandarua County, which neighbors Nyeri County, is very good in milk and potato production. Nyeri County, on the other side, is very good in onion production, very good in coffee and tea production, and other commodities that are not found, and bananas that are not found in Nyandarua. If we had the infrastructure joining these two counties, if we had value addition, that means that we need to get away also of ensuring that we work towards the value chain addition along the supply chain so that we can make sure that the farmers and the investors in that sector make maximum return on it. As we say that, Madam Speaker, it's not also lost to us that if the world is moving towards becoming a global village. It is therefore very important, Madam Speaker, that we place ourselves strategically, and that cannot also happen if we are stuffing or we are giving the counties resources that are not enough or barely enough to ensure that they survive. Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I want to say yes and I commend the chair of the Finance Committee for a job well done. How I wish that you would bring up some amendments so that we can see more resources being allocated. But as we do that, Madam Speaker, I think this should be a concerted effort by every senator sitting in this House to lobby, to talk to whoever needs to be spoken to, so that we can see more unbundling of functions and more distribution horizontally of the resources that needs to follow the functions that are devolved. Madam Speaker, I support with amendments.
Senator Osoti, you have a point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, pursuant to the Standing Order number 110.1, I want to beg that the debate on this motion be adjourned. Madam Speaker, we have been consulting very seriously with the chair of the Finance Committee and the leadership of this House, and we are about to produce white smoke. We therefore would like to propose that this motion be adjourned so that we can file amendments and so that we can debate the amended motion on this.
Who's seconding that motion?
Madam Speaker, I second.
Honorable Senators, I put the question that the debate be now adjourned pursuant to Standing Order 110.1. Will as many as opinion say aye? Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 51 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Osoti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to also raise my voice on the very important bill, the Business Laws Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, this bill seeks to amend various business laws, including the Investment Promotion Act, the Employment Act, the Lands Act, the Anti-Counterfeit Act, the Affordable Housing Act, and Occupational and Safety Health Act. These laws are very important, Madam Speaker, and when you talk about the Investment Promotion Act, it seeks to provide for the accreditation of facilitators for foreign investment. Mr. Speaker, this is very important requirement, especially in terms of supporting foreign direct investment. It's important to register all people who facilitate foreign investors. Mr. Speaker, we have had an upsurge of conmen who con investors. Investors come to this country, they have a lot of money to invest and create employment for our youth, and then in the process of seeking investment, they are conned their hard-earned money. So it is important to have a database of investors facilitators, especially for foreign direct investment, so that foreigners are not conned by some conmen, and in the process, this country ends up losing the much-needed foreign investment. Mr. Speaker, the amendment to this Investment Promotion Act also provides for the issuance of investment certificate, as well as setting out conditions for determining whether any investment or any related activity are beneficial to Kenya. Madam Speaker, this is very important, that the investors who come to this country must be given an investment certificate after the government has certified that whatever they are going to do is not going to contravene the law or is not going to have a adverse effect on our economy or on Kenyans. It has to be beneficial. So this will provide a system of determining that, Madam Speaker. You have seen the case of WorldCon, who came to this country and started taking biodata of Kenyans. That would not have happened if they went through this process of certification. So this is a very important amendment. The amendment to this Investment Promotion Act also requires that we have an investment promotion authority to provide government services at a centralized facility. I think this is also very crucial for investors, because the investors will have a centralized place where they can go to seek services, and therefore further avoiding all the troubles that foreign investors face. Madam Speaker, when you talk about Employment Act, the amendment to this is basically trying to define the keywords, like who is an employee, who is an employer, and basically other terms like business process outsourcing. It also sets out the obligation of business process outsourcing companies. Madam Speaker, these are companies which are established here to offer services, mostly customer-related services, to multinationals abroad. And this is huge business, but this has not been regulated before. So this bill will provide a process in which people will be engaged, contracted, and possibly comply with the obligations under our laws. Madam Speaker, when it comes to the amendments to Occupational Safety and Health Act, this also will provide further definition of the words employee, employer, workplace, so that to provide recognition of remote locations as workplaces. This is very important, particularly for business outsourcing companies, Madam Speaker. The bill, this business laws amendment bill, also seeks to amend the Affordable Housing Act in Section 2, Madam Speaker, by defining affordable housing scheme, and also introduces a new definition of the words administration fee, social, physical, and urban infrastructure. I think this is very important, Madam Speaker, to provide clarity where we had ambiguities in the Affordable Housing Act, so that the fees that are charged, administration fees and others, are clearly defined in the law. The Land Act amendment amends Section 90 by reducing the timelines given to a chargee to 40 days when dealing with affordable housing. This is important, Madam Speaker. It goes further to amend Section 96 of the Lands Act by introducing a new subsection which requires chargee, before exercising the power of sale, to take 20 days while seeking to sell property. This is very important, Madam Speaker, under the Affordable Housing Act. Madam Speaker, with those few contributions, I support this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, there's no other speaker. Would like to thank Senator Osotsi for your contribution to this. This debate can continue tomorrow. It is now 6:30. Time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 4th June 2025 at 9:30 a.m.